we're going to get this program started, and I will be remiss if I didn't introduce one of our TWC commissioners, Aaron Dimerson. He represents employers, but he's just a champion for interns and employers alike. So without any delay, I will welcome him, Commissioner Aaron Dimerson.
Thank you, Cassandra. We're running a little bit behind, but we're going to get there. I know others will be coming in, but I'm delighted to be here this morning. How's everybody doing? Pretty good, pretty good. Get fired up because we have an exciting day planned this morning. And so we're delighted. This is a sold-out conference. We had over about 250 folks to actually register, both employers and interns. And so I'm delighted to see all these interns here. Also delighted to have Michaelix with me today. Can you just raise your hand and let it right in. This is a senior really going on to that next level with college and the like. And so where you guys are sitting right now as interns is pretty spectacular. And I'm excited about the interns that we have on our team as well. Let me thank Julie and her team, conference planning team, for all they've done. This setup, what we have upstairs, what we have downstairs, doesn't just take place by itself. It takes place by individuals getting out there making a difference. And Julie, we appreciate what you guys are doing. And also to my team, Cassandra kicked this thing off. She's actually heading up this initiative. But Kim, Willette, I'm not going to name them all, Lake, just the entire team that's out there, we appreciate everything that they do day in and day out to make a difference. I'm going to move past this pretty quickly. I want to recognize Ed Cerner. Where's Ed? Ed's in the room. Ed, if you just stand. Ed is our executive director. Let's give him a round of applause. Ed runs the agency, and so he allows the team to take care of initiatives as such. And so I've been knowing Ed for a long time, but appreciate the work that he does day in and day out to make a difference in the lives of those that we're serving. And also the group from Capital Credit Union who helped us stuff the bags with the Capital Credit Union group. Not sure if they're here. They're right there. Appreciate you guys being here, Victoria, and the team with us again as well. So to all the interns today, you're in for a retreat. This conference was created specifically for you. And just by you being here today, you're in the #1 seat. You're already a step ahead of the curve in that regard. And so you're going to be access to some valuable information. We want you to get out there. We want you to network. We want you to take care of business in a big, big way. Don't be shy. Get out there and mingle. Get to know each other. Ask questions. Find out how a person got to the next level and the like. And the speakers that we have are going to impart a lot of wisdom and knowledge to each and every one of you. Use that information to take yourselves to the next level. We're going to be having another event after this one. This is our third event, Why Texas Summit, that's going to be held in September. We're doing that with Ed Curtis and the like. And so we're going to continue to sow into our interns. We're going to continue to ask questions, get information from you guys so that we're in a position to move even higher as we bring about Texas interns uniting here in Texas. So much to the point that we're here, national organizations actually talk about what we're doing here in Texas and maybe wanting to do some of that, replicating that. But we're going to get it right here in Texas first to make sure that we're taking care of business, and then we'll share with others maybe at some point in the future. So I'm going to move forward with this. We got a nice program that's in front of you. Everybody has the program, the agenda with you. We couldn't do this without the partnership that we have with the Higher Education Coordinating Board. And so Vanessa, that team, Dr. Jackson, Gerald Booker, who you're going to hear from, Higher Education Coordinating Board, a real good partner, Chairman Keller, Commissioner Keller, who's actually not here with us today because they have a board meeting that's going on. I mean, a lot of activities that are taking place, but we don't take for granted the partnership and the relationship and the support that we receive from you guys, Lisa, Vanessa, and I always want to call him Dr. Booker, but Attorney Booker, who appreciate the support as well. And so with that, I'm going to introduce, we have a special guest with us this morning. Delighted to have our Texas Secretary of State with us this morning. And that's an honor indeed. And so you guys are also in a position to now have a relationship with the Texas Secretary of State. And when you that relationship, or when you're meeting him at this point, that's a person that's accessible to you. That's a person that you can reach out to. That's a person that can actually give you information and knowledge in regards to some of the things that you might be interested in doing. And so I'm excited to have our secretary here. I'm going to introduce him and have him to come up and have words as well. But Secretary Scott was appointed by Governor Greg Abbott to serve as the 114th Texas Secretary of State on October 21st, 2021. Secretary of State Scott has over 33 years of experience as an attorney, having successfully tried over 100 lawsuits and handed handled cases at the United States Supreme Court of Texas, as well as the state and federal appellate level. That means he's been busy taking care of a lot of business. Before serving and in that role, he served as a Deputy Attorney General for Civil Litigations for then Attorney General Governor Abbott. And then he went on to become the Chief Operating Officer at the Health and Human Services Commission. That's one of the largest state agencies that we have in the state, over 56,000 employees that are with that team. Tried to go into private sector, private practice, but Governor Abbott kept bringing him back. And so Governor Abbott brought him back and was appointed as the chair of the board for the Department of Information Resources, another very important state agency that we have here in Texas. And so he's a passionate advocate for Texans and their businesses. I know he's been traveling internationally as well, working on the economic development front as well, and just a kindred spirit with me because we both like to get out there and take care of business. We were talking about coming up with a concept where we would probably go and become interns ourselves at another company in that light, and it didn't go over well, but we talked about it at that point. I wanted to go out and do the valet parking. I wanted to go do that, and he probably wanted to do, we talked about Uber driving, but they probably won't let both of us in the car at the same time from that standpoint. But just really a passionate advocate for interns and the like, has two sons and a daughter, which means that, and a grandson as well, which means that he's seen where you guys have been in the places that you guys have gone as well. He lives in Fort Worth, Texas, and so without further ado, I want to bring to the stage our Honorable Texas Secretary of State, John V. Scott.
Well, Commissioner, thank you very much for having me. Commissioner Alvarez, nice to see you again. Ed Cerna is a kind of an island. So no matter what happens in the system, you can always find Ed and you can get the right answer about anything involving workforce in the state of Texas. It's a great connection for each of you. If I was going to tell somebody who to go meet in the city of Austin, I would put Ed at the top of the list. No disrespect, commissioners, but so I'm going to digress already. Sam Taylor's my communications head, and what an interesting and great experience to go be to go get to intern. I mean, you get a chance to find out what you like or don't like, and knowing what you don't like is probably as important as knowing what you like, because I had all these different jobs, none of which were on my radar when I was out digging a ditch with a sharpshooter. And that was some of the first internships I got to experience. And it was great experience because I knew what I didn't want to do. And when I was driving spikes on the Fort Worth and Denver Railroad, I knew another thing I didn't want to do. When I was working at the grain elevator, 84 hours a week in the 100-something degree temperature, I found out something else I didn't want to do. People I worked with at all those places, they were wonderful people, great people. And it's not a disrespect to any of them. I knew there had to be a better way to make a living than just what renting my body out, because it was going to fail. And I'm 60 years old, and let me assure you, it fails sometime sooner than later. But I think that's one of the things that you are getting an opportunity that not many people in this country get a chance to do. To take the time to get to learn from somebody and from a company that's willing to open its doors, or the part of the government that's willing to do something and open its doors and let you see what it does. We have 4 interns at the Secretary of State's office. 3 are working in the brand new division, the Forensic Audit Division. They are, and I know I saw at least one here, and they are having a chance to reshape or shape for the first time and participate in a meaningful way in creating what this state is going to be doing with audits of elections going forward from here and after. They will know in 20 years and 40 years and 60 years that they were a part of creating that first iteration that took place. We have one over in my office, George Young, and George is working, I don't know if George is here, but he has come up with and doing an analysis of our trade with Mexico, because I think some of you have seen we've had some slowdowns in some of the passage across the bridges. Well, George is trying to make sure we make informed decisions in this ongoing issues that go down on our border. And so that we can make decisions as a state that are in the best interest and maybe effectuate the kind of response we want. Well, I never would have dreamed that people got to do things like that. Again, when you work at the grain elevator 84 hours a week, I made a lot of money to go to school. And that's how I got through college and law school. But what I learned was education was kind of at the core of everything I needed to do. And it's not that somehow I learned something that made it better. It was maybe a disqualification, because if I didn't have that degree, I wasn't qualified. My mom and dad, they didn't go to college. And what was really neat was they told me about how many jobs they thought they might not have gotten because of not having a college degree. My mom took in sewing, and we would go over and we'd pick up sewing from the people around the city, and we'd bring it back over to the house. My sisters never knew. I didn't know everybody didn't cut out on the kitchen table, had laid out all those patterns with the stuff. So my view of what went on in the world and what I thought went on in everybody's house was pretty narrow. But y'all are getting a view of the world that I never knew existed until I'd probably been out practicing law for quite a while. I didn't know everybody didn't take a peanut butter sandwich to work. But all of a sudden I found out people stopped and they went out to eat. People you get to interact with. I hear the word networking. I always thought that was phony baloney stuff. People you're getting to get to meet now, you will keep meeting them throughout your career. I first met Ed when we were fixing to send some of the visually impaired programs from Health and Human Services over to the Workforce Commission. I didn't think it was a good idea. It turned out to be a great idea. And so that's the other part of it. Just because you have something and an idea about what you believe should be taking place, you learn by interacting with other folks that there may be a better idea. And I think that's the big thing throughout your career. Be open to change, be open to taking different jobs, be open to always learning, because through education, through learning, and it never stops, you're going to be more marketable. And that ultimately is what you do. Become marketable, become scalable. And you can be like Bill Gates if you want to be like Bill Gates. But so I literally have gone completely off the thing. Sam, thank you for the speech you wrote, though. It was great. I leave it out front if you want to read it. But congratulations to all of y'all, and the best of luck in school as you go back in the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
I'm elated the secretary went off script, because that was some phenomenal information that's passed on. And when the networking session takes place, you guys are going to have an opportunity to be all over our state capitol. And so go by his office as well. Go by the Texas Secretary of State's office that's in the Capitol on the other side to kind of get a feel for what's happening there. So Secretary Scott, thank you for joining us again today. So we're going to come up to the next part of our program. I have an opportunity to work with two other commissioners. One is a commissioner representing labor, and the other is a commissioner that's representing the chair representing the public. But this gentleman that I'm going to introduce to you now, I refer to him as the Texas Tornado. He gets out there and just kind of takes care of a lot of business in big, big ways. I'm blessed to be able to have a relationship with him and to work with him as he represents the employees here in our great state of Texas. And so I'm going to read a little bit about Commissioner Julian Alvarez as well. I want you guys to know this, and the reason that I'm laying this information out is because if you have an interest in a particular area. Again, these are contacts, and the secretary mentioned the word networking. I want you guys to get a chance to go out there and visit with these individuals and ask these questions as well. But prior to his appointment here, Governor Abbott appointed him here back in March 7, 2017. But prior to this appointment, Commissioner Alvarez served as the president and CEO of the Rio Grande Valley Partnership. That was down in the Valley in Harlingen, fostering relationships and coordinating programs to advance regional economic development and employment opportunities. And so there are some connectors there, economic development opportunities that are there from the Valley from that standpoint as well. He also served as the Texas Regional Director for U.S. Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson, advising on legislative and policy issues related to South Texas. Another connector opportunity there. Something that's kind of unique. Prior to that, Alvarez served on the South Texas Drug Task Force as a state trooper. Good contact that way, because if you get stopped or whatever, you want to say, call Commissioner Alvarez from that standpoint related to tickets as well. But working with DPSS as well as the state trooper. And then after his service with DPS, Alvarez inspired stewardship and leadership as the Director of College Information for Texas State Technical College in Harlingen, Texas. And so he's tied into the education world as well. And so with that, Commissioner Alvarez earned a Bachelor of Science in Secondary Education from Texas A&I University in Kingsville. Bring to the stage our Texas Tornado, Commissioner Julian Alvarez.
Thank you, Commissioner. Can you all see me? Because he always plays this joke on me. He puts a podium taller than I am. So just want to make sure y'all can see me. How cool it is for all of you to be here. As Secretary Scott was talking, I kept thinking about my internship. And that was very simple. My dad said, go hang out with your grandfather, and you're going to learn. That's going to be your life experience. And it was interesting because my grandfather, obviously, he didn't work. I mean, he was picking cabbage. So, I mean, that was my internship, you know. But in all seriousness, when Secretary of State mentioned about your network, I heard recently somebody say something that was so interesting, and that was, you show me your network and I can show you what your net worth is going to be. And so that made so much sense. So who you hang out with, and I tell folks everywhere, whenever I go either do a commencement speech or we go speak in other places, you know, focusing on those people that are positive are always going to make you positive. Those people that are driving you to say negative things, they're going to drive you down, because everybody's going to be looking for that position that you have. I was recently in Houston, Texas, where I gave a speech to some young girls talking about STEM. And I thought it was real cool because in my bio, as you heard from Commissioner Dimerson, he referenced that I was from the Rio Grande Valley. I worked in the Rio Grande Valley Partnership. And it was cool because after talking to these groups of young girls, two of the young girls came up to me and they said, hey, you're from the Valley? And I said, yeah, I am. You're a 956? And I was like, I don't know what that means, but I thought that was a gang sign, but it was 956 is our area code. And I said, yes, I'm a 956er, I guess. But I thought it was interesting because these two girls had shirts that said NASA on them. And they were doing intern work. And it was pretty cool because they were both from the Valley, which they took a lot of pride in. And they had NASA, and they were testing spacesuits, Hispanic girls. And that was pretty cool to see that as I was leaving. But you guys are everywhere. And I have to commend the coordinating board and Commissioner Dimerson for elevating what we're doing for interns to the next level. So congratulations to the coordinating board for all you're doing. I mean, I've never seen so much energy dealing with interns, and especially, as you know, I represent the interests of 14.5 million workers. So I represent the working class. Everybody who's receiving a paycheck, I represent you. And so what's really cool is when Commissioner Dimerson came up with the idea about this Internship Unite and let's celebrate it, I thought it was really cool that the discussion about paying these individuals was there at the forefront, which made so much sense because there are a lot of kids, unfortunately, around this great state of ours that really, really want to be interns. They want to work somewhere. They want that job experience, but they don't get paid for it. And so you're having to determine whether I work at HEB or get to go to Spain and do intern work, or do I work at Walmart, or do I get to go work at Lockheed Martin? And you guys are everywhere. I mean, I've seen the growth. We have some of the best talent in this great state of ours. I mean, where else are you going to hear that 70 companies came in during the pandemic to the United States, to Texas? Where else are you going to hear that? I mean, we are just like booming. And this is another example of all the great things that the Texas Workforce Commission is doing along with Higher Ed and TEA. I mean, a joint collaboration where we're focusing, making sure that every Texan succeeds. So, to all of you that are taking part of this intern, take advantage of it. Man, just soak everything in. Soak everything in. I tell my friends, who would have ever thought that being a nerd was going to be cool? I mean, think about it. Who you associate with, your conversations with older people, those individuals that have life experience. Gain that experience from them. Gain it. Soak it in. Dimerson Commissioner referenced earlier about the various occupations that I've had. Who would have ever thought that a guy that lived 6 miles from the border wall in the Rio Grande Valley would have someday walked the halls in Washington working for one of the greatest United States senators ever in K. Bailey Hutchinson? Who would have thought that? Only Hispanic working there. But it came because I was a highway patrolman. Who would have ever thought I would have been a highway patrolman at 5'5"? I know some of you laugh. But as I tell Commissioner Dimerson, from the knees down, I can still kick his butt. But who would have ever thought that? That a guy like me, whose parents didn't speak very good English, they're okay, but didn't go to college, didn't even push college to us, because how could you push something on your kids that you didn't even gainfully have? What experience could they tell me? And it was interesting because I went to Texas A&I University. My father, at graduation night, told everybody at my graduation party, my son's going to be going to college. And I looked at my friends, my God, my dad must be drinking a lot because I ain't going to college. I was making $225 working at HEB, and I loved it. But somehow my dad filled out the application with the help of my friends, who I didn't know, and he checked off the wrong box, and he put A&I Kingsville instead of A&M College Station. So when we packed up, drove to the college site, he said, here we are at College Station. And I looked around and I said, this does not look like the pictures, Dad. But I guess what I'm trying to share with you is that my dad, even though I didn't know it, was the greatest mentor I had. He really was, by doing that for me. A guy who was not educated, didn't know nothing about FAFSA and all the things that you know. I mean, the technology that's out there and all the things, I think I told Brady, who's my communications guy that's with me today, I told Brady, if I could do anything over again, first of all, I wish I would have paid more attention in high school and in college. But second of all, I wish I was living right now, your age, because my God, the world is there for you all to just grab anything you want. Who knows? One of these days, I swear, as I look in the audience, I never had the opportunity to be an intern. Didn't even know what the term was. Take advantage of it. But I look forward to one of these days that a young lady someday, for the first time ever, will be the Texas Workforce Commissioner representing labor. I hope that happens soon. With your experience and your networking, that's possible. So thank you very much for allowing me to be here. Commissioner Dimerson, another home run for you and your team. I mean, this is amazing what you, the coordinating board, have put together. You're to be acknowledged, and thank you. And I know that this program will be replicated in other parts of the country. So thank you.
Commissioner Alvarez, thank you for your continued support. As I mentioned, the Texas Tornado gets out there taking care of business, and if you need anything from him, his office is also accessible. And I'll keep repeating that because we're very serious about that. We want you guys connecting in big, big ways, and anything that resonates or anything that sticks that you want to make happen, we want to make sure that you feel free to do that. His office is wide open for business. I was just teasing with him a little while ago. I'm always bringing folks by his office. Another thing Commissioner Alvarez kind of shared, his dad, he works for the Texas Workforce Commission, kind of known as TWC. And so when his dad said, you work for TWC, he was telling all his friends, they were saying, when are we going to get some of that free cable? You know, so Time Warner cable. No, Dad, it's TWC, the Workforce Commission. But we're delighted to have him on team. This is a partnership, as I mentioned, and we can't do this work without partnerships. And so Commissioner Keller, his first week on the job, I was on a panel at the Higher Education Coordinating Board, and it was a panel on internships. And we had TCEQ there with us and some other agencies and groups that were involved in the work of internships. And he made it a point to say that he really wanted to tap into internships. They have a commission meeting today, otherwise he would be here, but he has a very capable team, and today we're joined by Attorney Booker as well, someone that I want you guys to get to know as well. I had Michaela talking to him, and he kind of asked the questions. He has a deep background in this space, and so it's someone, that office, that you guys would bode well to get to know them. And so I want to read a little bit about Attorney Booker and then have him to come to the stage to provide some remarks as well. But he serves as the Assistant Deputy Commissioner for Academic Affairs and Workforce Education. And you have this information in your booklet as well, so I'm not going to read it all, but I want you guys to really pay attention to the bios because, again, those are your connector points in parts as well. But he's at the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, where he's responsible for overseeing college readiness, digital learning, access, completion, advising, and outreach programs designed to increase the state's access to and completion of post-secondary credentials of value. His portfolio includes Apply Texas, Advise Texas, ADVI, virtual advising, on-course, college and career readiness standards, open education resources, digital learning, clearinghouse, and a lot more. And so you see those, the background and the depth of knowledge that he has there. Prior to being there, he served as Associate Commissioner for Education and Student Policy Initiatives for the Texas Education Agency. And so now you see two agencies there, Higher Education Coordinating Board, Texas Education Agency as well. where he managed all aspects of educator quality and student initiatives in the state, including education certification, credentialing standards, differentiated compensation, and a number of other areas. I'm going to hit about his professional background as well. That's something for you to know. Booker's professional career also includes service as an associate vice president for external affairs at Coppin State University, an education legislative policy advisor to the governor of Maryland, as well as the director of policy and legislative affairs for the Maryland Higher Education Commission. Early in his career, Booker worked as a teacher, and so you see the start as well, and where he is today, as a teacher in the Baltimore City Public School System, and taught undergraduate and graduate level courses in political science and criminology. He received his bachelor's degree in journalism from the University of Texas here in Austin, his master's of science in criminology from the University of Baltimore, and earned his Juris Doctorate from Howard University, the School of Law. He was talking to Michaela about schools that she may want to attend, and she talked about Howard, but she said it may be too cold in D.C. And he said, well, Atlanta Clark may work as well. But again, the conversations are fruitful, the conversations are real, and here are opportunities for you guys as interns to really learn from those individuals. And so without much more, I'm going to bring to the stage the Assistant Deputy Commissioner for the Academic Affairs and Workforce Education for the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, Gerald Booker.
Can y'all hear me okay? I'm supposed to bring welcome from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. On behalf of Commissioner Keller, hold that thought. Don't do the seconds, I'm not this one. All right. On behalf of Commissioner Keller, the Coordinating Board, we're just happy to be a part of this Interns Unite. We have a tri-agency partnership that the governor wanted us to have. It works perfectly for us and TWC as well as TEA. Both commissioners are tireless workers for their constituents and for you all here. A couple of things I just want to get straight. My first job was not as a school teacher, it was an internship. And that internship, I did not get paid. That's back when you just work for free. They call that something else. But at that stage, I learned something very, very important. I learned that if I don't get good sleep the night before, I was going to fall asleep during my job. And that's the honest truth. I could not stay awake in my first internship. And I blame the internship. It was boring. It wasn't a good fit. But really, I was staying up all night playing the first video games ever created. So, but the couple things I do want to just impress upon you just in my career and the work that we do, and it is higher education. Your networks are critical to you, but not just in a professional way. Don't just shake hands and I know your role. Actually know people's story. Everybody in certain roles, you think, for some reason, I used to think that they were special people or doing something magical, and they're not. They're just not. They're just like you. They start in the same place. They work hard. They know people, and they move up, and then they all of a sudden become magical. And don't believe that. Everybody's pretty much the same, doing the same things, having the same problems, and the same family background. So take your time to meet people, know their story, make sure they know your story. If they give you their card and want you to email them, email them. If they don't, they won't give it to you. I guarantee you. So if they're giving it to you and talking like that, reach out to them. You'd be surprised what you know and how that actually leads into something else long term. I was a journalism major, never thought I'd be in the position I'm in. There's no path for that. You just work and you keep learning and keep building and you'll grow. So because I'm from the Higher Ed Coordinating Board, I'm gonna do one thing because we're all about rigor in higher education and it's early. So I'm gonna give you all a math problem. And I've done this a lot. I'm gonna give you a math problem that you have to say in your head, 6 easy numbers. 6 easy numbers, you say them in your head, and when I point, you shout out the answer. All right? Ready? No pen, no phones, nothing. Ready? 1,000 plus 60 plus 2,000 plus 30 plus 1,000 plus 10. All right. I'm concerned about the future of Texas if we can't add 6 basic numbers together. 6 numbers. And we heard a number of different answers. Did you hear them? All right? Now, I'm going to tell you what the answer is, but there's a point behind. The answer is 4,100. But everybody says 5,000. And everybody says 5,000 because you make assumptions. You assume certain things without the facts. You're not really re-examining, thinking about the facts. And I bring this up to be, in your own life, you make assumptions. They won't return my call. They won't email. I'm probably not going to get that. I'm not prepared. It doesn't matter. You have to do it. You can't win unless you try. I think the lottery's what, $1 billion now? You can't win unless you play. And I'm not a lottery guy, but it works. It works. You can't do it unless you play. So I give you that math problem and say, don't make those sort of assumptions. I've done it all over this country. Half the people say it right, the other half say 5,000. Do not assume. Do the work, go in, be confident about yourself, meet who you need to meet, maintain your networks all the way through undergrad. If you're a high school student, please do. You apply Texas right now. They're open up in August for most of the applications. If you're looking for an internship that's not free like I had, Texas Works is there for you, our program through the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. In partnership with employers, we are looking for more employers. So if employers, you're here and you want to actually provide internships and get half of it paid, Coordinating Board is your team for that. So I want to acknowledge Vanessa, Malone, Lisa Shaw, and Amy Dalton. I don't know my team. They're wonderful, and Amy in the back. They run that program, and if you're interested, by all means, we have a website for it, and they're here to actually speak to about it, particularly if you're an employer, and if you're a student, there's opportunities there for you to get those internships. Thanks again, Commissioner. We appreciate you being a part of this, and thank you. Have a great day.
So Jarrell Booker, thank you so much again. And our relationship with the Higher Education Coordinating Board means so much. You know, he's going to get back to a commission meeting that's going on as well. So we're going to try to get back on track, or get on track with our afternoon. We have some dynamic speakers coming forward. But before, I know Commissioner Alvarez had mentioned Lockheed. I know Lockheed is here. Ms. Rodriguez. Okay, good to have you guys here. A lot of corporations that are in here in this room as well. And so we're delighted to have those relationships. And so I'm going to turn the program back over to Cassandra so that we can get started and be on our way.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I really want to thank Secretary of State Scott, and I love hearing his story, especially about the peanut butter jelly sandwiches. And I know you're probably hungry, but we have a nice lunch planned. And I want to recognize Commissioner Alvarez for his first unofficial internship, but it was still meaningful, and he learned a lot. But I'm glad you said those wonderful words to the interns and employers here today. Makes me want to be an intern. And I thank Gerald Booker for his experience and his math quiz. Did y'all get caught off guard on that one? I was trying to cheat with my pen. So, but yeah, that was good. So thank you for that, Gerald, for that lesson. So we have another phenomenal speaker coming up, and you're going to be wowed, impressed, amazed with Joyce Johnson. So I don't want to delay anymore. I want to bring up our intern, though, to introduce her, Alejandro Perez. He's coming, but this is our intern at TWC, and he's been doing amazing work, so thank you, Alejandro.
Morning, everyone. Our first speaker is a graduate from Prairie View, Texas A&M University, and she holds a master's in global business affairs. She is also a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority and is a profound business leader, speaker, and author. Please help me welcome up Ms. Joyce Johnson.
Thank you, thank you. Oops, now we're down. Hope my water don't roll over. Let me just sit it like this. Good morning. Good morning. So I have this. You said go to the left? To the right. All right, cool beans. Welcome, everyone. Appreciate being here. Thank you, Cassandra and Commissioner, for allowing me the opportunity to be here this morning to talk about something that I'm really passionate about. We talked about a little bit about my professional career. I'm gonna give you a little bit more detail, right? Oh, that part. Now we're ready. Okay, so let's tell you a little bit. I want to start by telling you a little bit more about myself. So, Commissioner, I'm not wired. I like to walk around. Commissioner Alvarez mentioned about your area code. Well, I grew up in Galveston, Texas. Anyone familiar with Galveston? Of course. Small island south of Houston. So we always say we're BOI, born on an island. So I thought about that when you said that, because we always say we're BOI. But a little bit about myself. Of course, I've had this tremendous corporate career and entrepreneurship career, but I like to talk about things that I'm passionate about and the things that I've learned throughout that career. So that's why today we're going to talk about navigating the corporate pie, and I'll tell you a little bit about that, how it's going to contribute to the success of your career. Hello. Got it. Thank you. And how it's going to contribute to the success of your career. But a little bit on the personal level about myself. You guys have my bio in there, but I wanted to share also that I am a first generation college student on my mom's side of the family. And what that means is that when I went to college, that my family had a great big dinner. Everyone showed up. I had more than enough that I needed to be sent off, but we had a prayer meeting, and it really meant a lot to my family to be able to send me off to Purdue A&M University, and kudos to the PV student who's here today. And I took that life very serious. I knew it was a huge responsibility for my family. My mother was a licensed nurse initially, and then she became a licensed RN, registered nurse. And it wasn't until I finished college that it made her go back and get her degree from college as a degreed nurse before sending my brother off to college. But she was very adamant that all three of her kids were going to go to college. And when we sat around our table, it was all about when you get to college. So my mother had 3 kids, and we're all graduates. My brother, I graduated from Purdue. My brother graduated from UT Austin. He just retired as the Assistant Deputy Director for the state of Texas for parole. My sister graduated from Purdue in education. So we were the first generation of our family, and after that, all our cousins and things went to college. So when you're sitting here, I know you feel like you have the weight of the world on you, you first generation students, but to whom much is given, much is expected, so own it. Then I also have my BA in communications journalism, and I worked in athletics in school. However, I was not an athlete. I think I missed my calling. I probably should have been like a sports agent, because in high school I would take photos of my friends, and then I would write an article, because I was the editor of the newspaper, and I would fax it to the colleges that they were interested in. Yeah, I think someone owes me a little bit something. Well, my friend, I'm gonna go back and think about that. My friend Reginald, actually SMU came and landed a helicopter at our school field to recruit him, and I was like, Reggie, is that letter that I sent for you? But anyway, so just a little bit about myself. And so, worked in 4 different industries, 10 vertical markets. I date myself. None of you knows what this means when I say I've regulated 2 industries. Maybe a few people, maybe Commissioner Alvarez. I've regulated 2 industries, the telephone industry. I know you guys just think they work like they work today, but they didn't, right? It took a lot of us working really hard to make that happen. And I've also founded 3 businesses and been very active in diversity groups in my corporate career. So let's, now I've told you a little bit about me. I want to know a little bit about you, because I like to know who I'm talking to. Plus, I'm a little nosy. So by show of hands, how many athletes do we have in here? 2? All right. You know, you guys are the top 5%ers. So, all right, they said 95% of all CEOs played a sport in college. Yeah, and 65% of the most influential women actually played a sport in college. Yeah, just a little notation about yourself. So, and I go through this exercise with students because I want to know what you're thinking about when you introduce yourself to people, right? And how are you going about that conversation? So how many seniors we have in house? Congrats, it's almost time. How many interns do we have? Awesome, bravo. And my internship was also free as well. So I had to get a car, because I didn't have a car in college, work full time, and then go to work for free early in the morning for the 5 a.m. radio show at KRBE Houston. So anyone familiar with that radio station? Yeah. Awesome, H-Town. So I was on there. So how many musicians do we have? Any musicians? A couple of musicians also. Awesome. Do we have any gamers in the house? Yeah? All right. So who was talking about that Atari? I think that was Mr. Booker. That was probably the first game that he had, that first video game. And then, so let me see here. What's the one? Who's a social media influencer? Who has 1,000 followers? Who has 5,000 followers? Oh, look back there, 5,000 followers. Okay. Tweet me out that you're here and, at I am Joyce Johnson. All right, we want to know a little bit about the audience. Great. So let's get into the meat of this presentation. When I talk about navigating the corporate pie, what we mean by navigating the corporate pie is how you perform in corporate, right? And not just in corporate, in your job now, in your internship. I actually taught this method to my niece when she was in high school. I said, you're not maximizing your high school life. You're not building the right relationships. You're not doing the right things. Your performance is low. And what we mean by the pie is performance, image, and exposure. So that's what we're going to talk about today, performance, image, and exposure. Now, this theory was brought up by a man named Harvey Coleman. Miss Joyce didn't make this up, right? But I'm very good at it. When I uncovered it and I understood what it meant and how it could impact my career, I got very serious about navigating the corporate pie, right? The performance, the image, and exposure. So let's talk about that. Performance is what you do on the job, right? It's what you do on the job. I went and I looked at an ad here in Austin for sales because I'm in sales. That's what I do. So I looked up a sales ad and I looked at the requirements for the job. What I want you guys to begin to do is, as you begin to apply for work, I want you to hold on to the job descriptions so that when you get the interview, you have a copy of the job description and you can now go through the job description and really understand what they're expecting of you. I wrote this book, Top 10 Sales Tips for College Grads. And I wrote it in mind because we were so tired of people showing up to corporate with just their ID and their social security card to start work. We want you to start work with a plan. So we want you to understand that when we put an ad out for a sales job, that these are the things that we're expecting from you, right? So if you're applying for a sales job, and by the way, I have to plug it, I think sales is the only profession, no matter what your background is, your training, your education level, that has a job for you that you can go into and earn 6 figures your first year. So we want people to identify and partner with new and existing clients to book business, right? Want them to go meet their clients, want them to understand how many people they have to touch, how many clients they're managing, where they're located. We want them to manage their territory well, want to make sure they're contacting everyone. We have this thing in sales, we say, that I kind of created part of that. You go wide, right? You got to go wide. You got to touch multiple people. Here in this room, you got to go wide. When you leave here, you should have connected with a few people, right? Not just one. You got to go across the room. Like, already be thinking about, who I'm going to talk to over there, who I'm going to speak to over there. Oh, I need to get my name in front of this person. And then also the CRM part, customer relationship management, right? So the job is saying, when you go see these people, when you go and talk to them and you pitch our services and what have you, we now want you to go and put this in a customer relationship management tool. A lot of companies have customer relationship management tools, not just for their sales teams, but the HR team, the processing team, the order team, the supply chain. Everyone has a little something to do in this system, right? So you're going to have to learn how to do it. And yes, they're going to teach you in training. Some companies will, some won't, let's be honest. So you're going to have to own it for yourself to learn the things that you need for your job. Because this performance is when you sit down with your leaders, they're going to be talking to you about how did you perform and what did you do. So I want to give you some tips that I put in my book. One of the things is you'll hear a lot in corporate, and not just in corporate jobs, but all jobs, to have a 30, 60, 90-day plan. For our employers here, anyone have a 30, 60, 90-day plan? A quarterly plan? An annually plan? Right? I always manage my book of business by quarters. So my business right now, I blocked my calendar for next week because I'm already planning for next year. And I need to map that out in my house on my big white posters in my office. Phil will tell you I have big white posters, right, all over the office with little posters on top of the posters. So if I need to take a post-it off, because I want you to understand it's a working plan, right? But you gotta have a plan. And so in corporate, they always want you to come in most jobs, with a 30, 60, 90-day plan. I always say have a 120-day plan, right? But in that plan, understand what that job description is and how are you gonna accomplish those things, where are you gonna plug those things into in your plan? and in what time frame you plan to accomplish those. Your manager, your leaders, they're going to tell you this, but why not show up ready? You know, you kids say, stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right? Why not show up ready? Why not show up understanding what they expect from you and having a plan to execute? That's what employers are looking for you from, right? So when they hire you, yes, you're an intern, yes, you're a college student, but when we hire you because we know you bring something to the table. So I'm going to tell you right now, you bring something to the table. If you don't think you bring something to the table, I want you to understand, you bring something to the table, and that's why you're there. People say all the time, oh, Joyce, thank you for working with the interns. Oh, you do such a great job. And I'm like, they teach me so much. I learned so much from them, right? What apps to use, how to edit my photos, make sure I'm cute, you know. Phil, are you getting my best side? Phil was an intern for me from, was it 2019 to 2021? Yes, he was my intern. I met his mom. She is over the Houston HBCU alumni chapter, and I was sitting with her, telling her I was going to hire an intern. And she said, well, hire my son. And so he came to work with me that summer, and then when he went back to college to Grambling State University, he stayed aboard and he worked for me virtually. And of course, he was a photographer for me as well. He just graduated, congratulations, in May. So I told him, I said, hey, come on over here to Austin with me, take some great photos, but also network me some people and maybe you can find an opportunity. So have a plan. Then make it smart, right? And so there's a lot of different plans. I mean, the great thing about you guys, I'm gonna date myself. The great thing about you guys, you have the internet, right? As my mom say, just ask Google, you know. You guys have the internet. I had encyclopedias, right? We had to have library time. We had to get dropped off and picked up and all that stuff, right? You guys just have it right there online. So there's a lot of plans online that you can get to help you write an effective plan. One plan that's very popular that I'm going to give you just the letters of it here is a SMART plan, right? Make sure it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, right? If they say, well, our best sales guy who's been with the company 20 years is at 180%, don't walk in and say, well, you know what, I'm going to be 188. No, you're not. Well, maybe if you're me. I'm just kidding. So, but, you know, make it realistic, right? And then make sure it's time bound. Because if you don't put a time on it, it really doesn't happen, right? They say if you have a plan, you don't put a time on it, it's just a dream or a wish or something. So you have to make sure that it's time bound, right? So make sure it's specific. And I want you guys to look this up, and if you're not taking notes, you should be taking notes. But look this up if not, right? Ask to Google about a SMART plan, okay? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. Go into your job with a plan. Your performance is a big part of your measurement. When you have your quarterly, your 6-month, and your 1-year conversations with your leaders, okay? Now we're going to talk about image. Your image is about how you're doing the job and how you show up for the job, right? How do you go about doing your job? You know, I had Phil out in the mall like all day yesterday because I had a blazer that was just really hot. But my image has always been that I wear blazers. I have high school photos, and I'm on a football field taking photos. I have a blazer on. I don't know why. When I was in homemaking, did y'all have homemaking still in school? They teach homemaking? When I was in homemaking and I had to make a couple of suits, you have to make something homecoming. I actually made suits. I had a skirt with blazers. That's what I do. When I was working in all fields, I would show up with my jeans on, my steel-toe shoes, my pink hard hat, and a blazer all the time. And they were like, Joyce, are you hot? Yeah. But anyway, I had Phil out last night. I was like, Phil, I need something lighter. I'm going to be sweating in this Texas heat. And so I wanted to find a blazer. But that's a big part of my image and how I show up, right? And to the point that when I was the leader of our African American Business Resource Group and we had an event, all of the people said, we got to have a jacket on. Joyce is going to expect us to be dressed, right? Because they were following my lead. How do you show up? You guys seen these two guys? Stand up. They're in the audience. Stand up. So they They are sharp. Look at them. I had a great opportunity to meet them, at the press conference for this program, and I took a photo of them. And so I told them when I saw them, I said, "You're my presentation." So this is how you show up, right? This is how you show up until someone tells you not to. And even then, you show up, right? I tell my niece, I tell her, I said, you show up like you want the boss job, or however many you get to meet, right? Because when they begin to think about promoting someone, they're gonna promote those guys, right? And so those people over there, those are the fashion people. And from what I understand, even if you're in fashion, you don't want to show up like that, because I got that photo off the worst dress for that event. That's the worst dress for a fashion event, right? But you want to show up like these guys. You want to show up like those guys. And I know now sometimes with interviews, they're virtual and things, but I interviewed a young woman for an intern job with my company, and she was wrapped in a blanket. And I just couldn't get past it. Monica, my admin, she was like, Joyce. Joyce. She's texting me, Joyce. I'm like, no. I said, I want everyone off the call except for this young woman. And I had a talk with her because I know no one else had. And I didn't want her to make that mistake ever again, to show up that way. I said, if it's cold in your house, put a jacket on, put a sweater on, but don't show up to the interview in a blanket. We're gonna be going back to work. What does your desk look like? I have this friend, Alex. He used to report to me many years ago at AT&T, and I just had a conversation with him this week. And he said, remember you used to always come and throw everything off my desk? And I said, yeah. His desk would look like this. And he'll call me, and he'll be like, Joyce, I'm at my customer appointment. Can you go get this paper for me and whatever? And I'll go to his desk, and I'm like, ooh. And I kept asking him, like, Alex, organize your desk, clean your desk, dude, so I can, what's wrong with you? And he would always have his desk like this. And so I just started doing this, going to his desk and just swiping it all off into the trash. And then he would have to come in and fix it all up. And then one day, eventually, he asked one of his friends who had a really neat desk like that one over there to help him out. How you show up, that creates your image, right? And Alex would show up. He was always the sharpest guy there. Always the sharpest guy there, top performer and everything. But his desk was a mess. And so I tolerated it because he did a great job until one day I just couldn't tolerate it anymore, and I just threw it all in the trash. And he said, what happened to my desk? I said, I don't know. Maybe maintenance people just, cleaning staff thought it was junk. I don't know. So how you do your job and your image is so important. I can't state it enough, because as you see here, this statement says, it's the conversation that happens when you're not in a room, right? It's a conversation that happens when you're not in the room. One time I applied for this promotion and I didn't get the promotion, and I went to my leader, Bessie, and I said, Bessie, what are you saying about me when I'm not in a room? Because your leaders, they're in their leadership meetings, right? And when someone asks about you and wants to get you promoted, they're gonna say, oh, well, are they supportive of their peers? Are they team players, right? Are they problem solvers? Here's a big one. You guys ever heard this? Are they coachable? Are they coachable, right? Are they committed to the job, or are they just here? Because a lot of times when we go into one role, we already have the next role we really want to go into. But what we have to do is stay committed to the one that we're in and do a great job there and execute there. Otherwise, why would they want to give us more responsibility? Right? It's like when I asked my stepdad, like, why do you have me drive in this car? He's like, I want to know if you can take care of that car. If you can't take care of that car, you can't take care of a better car. So I just paid my brother to wash it. Do you follow up? Do you work with integrity? All of these conversations are happening when you're not in a room. Just like they said with integrity is what you're doing when people aren't watching, right? Your image is what you're doing when people are watching. They're paying attention to what you do, and they're making their own assumptions about who you are, how well you execute, and if you should be the next person in the next role. Exposure. Who's watching? Right? I'm watching. I saw those two guys, right? I took that photo of them, and when I got ready to redo my presentation up there, I said, let me put my guys in there. Show everyone what good looks like, right? Put them in there. So exposure is all about who knows you, right? Who knows you? Who do you know? We talked about the network and the networked, right? You'll hear that a lot. Who knows you? Who are you networked in with? Who are you having breakfast with? I traveled sometimes 80% of my job, 80%. And they said, when you're in a different city, never eat alone. Everyone got to eat, right? Everyone has to eat. So never eat alone. So I would always find a salesperson or a customer or someone, maybe expand a relationship to have dinner with. And it was another way to get to visit a city and really see a little bit of the city. Because a lot of times you travel, you never go into the city, right? But I always say, raise your hand early and often. Raise your hand early and often. Practice it. Raise your hand. Raise your hand early and often. When someone is asking for a volunteer, what are you going to do? Raise your hand. When they say there's a new project needs to take place, raise your hand. Need someone to introduce a speaker? Raise your hand, right? Because then that's how you are seen. And then when you volunteer, execute. Volunteers, being a volunteer is the most important role ever, right? If you volunteer, I do a lot of work with the Bahamas Red Cross. If you volunteer, they really need you to show up. They really need you to show up on time, show up well, and execute. Just because you're volunteering in a role, don't take it lightly. Don't say, oh, well, I'm just volunteering. It's not a part of my pay, right? Because it may become a part of your pay one day. But take it seriously, right? Then understand who is your mentor. Let me see the hands of people that have mentors in the room. Awesome. You see the hands of people that have a sponsor in the room. So the difference between a mentor and a sponsor is, the mentor is a person that's been in a role and they can tell you how best to do the role and how to get it done and maybe who to go talk to. You can go to them to, vent a little bit, tell, oh, that's happened, how do I overcome this or what have you. Your sponsor is the person that's in the right rooms, right? Your sponsor is a person that's in the room when decisions are being made. And they've observed you because you raised your hand and you've been participating. And so now your sponsor is saying, you know what, this is a great role. I think you need to hire Philip for this. I think you need to hire Lisa for this. Now your sponsor actually is a person that could help you get the job. Just by the mere fact that they are in that room, they are a key player, a key decision maker, and they can help make that decision for you. I'll share a story with you. There was a gentleman who was in Dallas. I live in Houston, so a gentleman in Dallas. He was looking for a strategic salesperson for his major customer base. He had interviewed so many people in Houston, and he hadn't found the right person. So he's sitting in a room with some other leaders, and just so happened someone that knew me was in a room. And they said, well, do you know Joyce Johnson? Have you talked to Joyce Johnson? He said, no, I haven't. They said, oh, well, you got to talk to Joyce Johnson. That's your person, right? She'll make it happen for you. So you got to talk to Joyce Johnson. So I talked to this guy over the telephone once. Then we have a little video call. That's the second one. Now I showed up, and I showed up well, and I was prepared, and I had a plan for him. I knew everything about the role, okay? Then he called, and he hired me, right? He hadn't seen me, he hadn't rubbed elbows with me, but because of my work, my performance, because of my image, because of the people that were watching and knew what I did and how well I did it and how well I executed, I got the job. Because I had a sponsor in the room to say, if you want the right person, you need to call Joyce Johnson. She's the right person for you. And he told me, his name was Dwayne, he lives in Dallas, and Dwayne said to me, he said, you know what, Joyce? He said, it was your job not to get. He said, it was for you not to get the job, right? If I would have showed up lousy, if I would have showed up taking it for granted, if I wouldn't have, if I'd have showed up with a blanket on the call, any of those things, not had a plan prepared, not being able to have a conversation, I probably wouldn't have gotten the job. He said, Joyce, it was yours to lose, because I had a mentor who also had a great sponsor, and they were in the right room at the right time and got me the job. So raise your hand early and raise it often. Don't be afraid. The reason I say early, because a lot of times we're hesitant because we're thinking we may not have the right skill set or what have you. And as Mr. Booker said, get to know people and really connect with them, because we all have the same things. We all have the same fears. We all have the same concerns. We all have the same dreams. And when you get to know people, you understand that. So raise your hand early and often so you can get the exposure that you need. So now I want us to rate the pie. We've talked about performance, what you do in a job. We talked about your image, how you do it. We talked about your exposure, who knows about it, who you're networked in with the company, Last time I was at a company conference, and the CEO at that time, DG passed by. He said, oh, hey, Joyce. I said, hey, Gigi, what's up? And my friends were like, did he read your name tag? He doesn't really know you. I said, oh, he knows me. But you see that? So of these three things here, one is 10%, one is 30, and one is 60. Raise your hand if you think performance is 60%. Raise your hand if you think image is 60%. Raise your hand if you think exposure is 60%. All right, I think some of you voted twice, but it's been about the same. But let's take a look at it, okay? Let's take a look. Exposure is 60%. Exposure. Right? Exposure. Who knows you? Who's your mentor? Who's your sponsor? Exposure. So that's why when I was in cities, I didn't need a loan, right? I would get up really early and go to our branches, and I knew that all of our supply chain people would be there early in the morning. I would go shake their hands, and so when they were talking about me to their leaders, they were like, wow, Joyce Johnson is the only global account manager that ever comes in and sees us when she's in town. She's the only person that comes and brings us lunch, orders, pizza, what have you. The exposure. Now, they say exposure is 60%. Okay, but let's keep it real. The reason how you get to that great exposure is based on your image and people seeing you and getting to know you. A lot of times in your role, most of the time, people are going to want to know you or notice you because of your performance, what you do. Right? So for me, after I read this and I decided to execute on it, I said, you know what? I need to be number one consistently. And I just made a decision right then and there. It's the hardest I ever had to work in my life, but I made a commitment to do that to myself. Then my image I felt was intact because, like I said, I've been walking around like this since I was 12, maybe younger. And then I knew that I had to really work on that exposure, right? If a leader was coming into town, I had to make sure I was on their calendar. If they had a 7 o'clock start, then I wanted to have breakfast with them at 6. If they had a dinner at 6, I wanted to drive them to it. Do you have a ride? When they said that they wanted to go out on a sales ride with someone, I opened up my book of business and I said, send them with me. I got this. Okay. So 60% is your exposure, but your image is very important. It's half of that, 30%. And then that 10% is your performance. But I am going to share with you, your performance is where it starts. We all have a foundation. When you're building a house, you have a foundation. Your performance is your foundation, okay? Your performance is your foundation. Your image is the frame of the house that they put together, and then you have your exposure. So I want to give you some resources that when you go into your jobs and organizations, how to gain that exposure, I'm a big advocate of business resource groups within companies, and I think it's a great question to ask companies when you're interviewing if they have business resource groups. And what business resource groups are? They were initially built to build inclusiveness in organizations. And I say inclusiveness, although you see you have women business resource groups, generational, millennials, admins, veterans, disabled, African American, Hispanic, LGBTQ, but you don't have to be, I don't have to be, I was in an Asian business resource group because one of my great friends, Tiffany, was, and I wanted to be able to support them and teach them what we had been doing in the African American business resource group, which I was the vice president. I was part of the women's business resource group, gave me great exposure because in a women's resource group, we created our first maternity leave for our company. Our company didn't have a maternity leave. So we put together maternity leave, we wrote it up, we went to our leaders, and we told them what we needed. And then for you men, we actually gave you 2 weeks off when your wives have babies because we wanted you at home changing those diapers too. But that in itself gave me great exposure. Almost got me in trouble too because we had a meeting with a leader and they selected me to be the spokesperson, you know, because I'm always raising my hand. They're like, Joyce, you tell them, Joyce. I'm like, okay, I got it. And then 2 weeks later, they announced our new CEO and he was it. I was like, oh God, what did I say in that meeting? What did I say? What was the plan? Oh my goodness, let me recap. Did anyone video me? I was just thinking what I said in that meeting. But business resource groups can be a great place, a great outlet for you to go and begin to get exposure and to work and volunteer. They have softball games, they put the groups together. There are also, some companies, they have international ones. I've been consulting with a pharmaceutical company for their business resource groups, and they're global, so they want to know how do we bring everyone together in a global space. So that's a great resource for you. When you get into these companies, organizations, find a group that you can become active with. It's almost like being in a fraternity and a sorority, right? And be able to network in with those groups. Do we have time for Q&A? 1 minute, 2 minutes? Any questions about the pie? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Henry. I'm an intern at the LBB, and I attend Prairie View A&M University, and I was rising senior. And my question is, how do you navigate those businesses, especially historically with Black women haven't been wanted there, or haven't been accepted as much as other races, gender, or classes?
You show up as you, right? So I've worked in 2 of the most male-dominated fields there are, you know, and professions there are, right? Oil and gas and sales, right? Oil and gas and sales. So even as late of last week, I showed up and I'm the only woman and person of color in the room. I'm in an organization where I'm the only person of color in the whole organization. It happens. You show up as you perform, you have your image, you focus on the pie, you smile, and I never expect to have a bad experience, right? But when I do, I smile my way through it, right? Keep your game face on, and I smile my way through it. Just show up as you, because you're there for a reason. You know, I shared that with a peer one time. He said, oh, well, Joyce, you're diversity high. I said, let's keep it real. Maybe, but I'm here because I'm good. Show up as yourself. Any other questions? Yes, sir?
My name is Julian. I'm also an intern at the LBB. I'm a senior at UT Austin studying government. I had a question about how we can leverage our positions to support and potentially sponsor other coworkers and employees that are kind of on the same level as us to uplift each other.
Oh, I love that. You put together a flyer, you name it, you create a Zoom, and get everyone on it. And talk to people about what's important to them. The same things that you're feeling, the reason that you feel you need that network system, that's why I believe in business resource groups. So you basically can create your own network of, you know, it could be the intern group, right? And take leader ownership of it and just have dialogue with people. What do you need? How can I support you? Right? Are there any gaps? And how can, and not just so that we can take it to leadership to fix it, but how can we fix it? How can we improve the process? And what type of feedback can we provide to improve the process? She's up here, that means I gotta go. Thank you guys. I am Joyce Johnson, and you can follow me on all my social media.
Another round of applause for Joyce Johnson. Thank you. Told you, wow, phenomenal. And so I really want to thank her. I like all the suggestions and the excellent pie information that you delivered, and exposure is key. So thank you. And we do have some well-dressed interns, so thank you for pointing that out. And I know we're off schedule, but we're going to be making some adjustments, and so just bear with us. So thank you for that. So now we have another speaker that is amazing, and you're just going to be wowed again. And her name is Dr. Valerie Segovia. And without further ado, I do want to bring up Josh Hall. He's going to make formal introductions, but just you're in for another treat. So please stay tuned, and we're just moving right along. Well dressed. I mean, a round of applause. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Cassandra. Good morning, everyone. As she did say, my name is Josh Hall. I am Dimerson's intern, as well as that rising third-year marketing student at the C.T. Bauer College of Business at the University of Houston. Also, shout out PV. Now, this morning, I know you can back too. Yep, shout out PV. This morning, I have the pleasure of introducing someone with not only one but two roles within her organization. So if it's all right, I'm gonna have to sit up here and brag on her just a little bit. Dr. Valerie Segovia works for the Texas A&M Engineering Experiment Station Nuclear Institute. Am I hitting it right? Nuclear Power Institute, sorry, so much. As well as that, the Nuclear Engineering Center, Science Center, it's a big abbreviation, sorry about that. Big titles. She has a lot that she impacts. I'm gonna hit on one statistic. So if you don't know, typically only about 15 to 17% of students that are going into college pursue a STEM degree. When you go through her programs, out of the participants, 75 to 80% of them end up pursuing STEM, which is a tremendous impact. She is so in demand for her intellect and her ability to teach that she has been all over on an international scale. I'm talking about Rome, Italy. I'm talking about Paris, Buenos Aires, and so many more. And it makes sense that she would have so much demand. She has not only her bachelor's, 2 master's degrees, and her doctorate. Sorry, I had to pause there. I had to make sure I had your attention. I want to make sure you heard me there. 2 lead roles within her organizations, bachelor's, 2 master's degrees, and doctorate. She knows her stuff. I could go on and stay up here, but I don't want to pride on for too long. So, without further ado, Dr. Valerie Segovia.
So hello everyone. I'm a little embarrassed by those introductions. Josh, you did great. And Cassandra, I don't think I'm gonna wow or amaze anybody this morning, but I appreciate the encouragement. So guys, what I really want to talk to you about this morning is about being persistent. Being persistent as you grow and you learn and you develop. Now for me, I guess it's been my whole life that I've really been kind of captivated by persistence. And that is really because, I'll just give you a brief little history for me. I'm the 12th of 13 children, and bless my mama. And so my mom and dad, they were married, all the wonderful things, but my dad was never able to go to school. They're both 93, 92, so they were growing up during the Depression and all the things. So my daddy, when he was about 4 or 5 years old, he had to start shining shoes, selling newspapers, that kind of thing. And so he grew up, was in a really tough situation. And my mom, again, because of the times and the situations, she was only able to make it to about junior high. But the thing that they both had in common were they were just tenacious. They were going to take care of their business. They were going to do what they had to do to provide for their family, and a little extra to my mama. She was all about faith, hope, and love, right? So we got all the yummy stuff from my mama. But for my daddy, still to this day, he doesn't read or write, but he's an amazing, successful businessman. Even to this day, it's incredible. And growing up, all my older brothers and sisters, we all were in this pool, so to speak, of feeling like we always had to do our best, whatever that best was. Because, my mom and dad, my dad really wasn't into our education so much. He was just, get to work, come over here and help me. But, my mama would always just say to us, just do your best. Mija, amigo, do your best. Just do your best at school, be good, follow the rules, do your best. So for me, I didn't really know what my best was, but I knew I need to work hard, okay? So that left something in me. And as I saw that the limited background and education that my parents had, they made up for it by, their tenacity and their work effort and just their persistence at keeping going, whatever the struggle was. So again, I was amazed by that, but I knew quickly that I was not going to be an entrepreneur like many of my siblings were. That just wasn't for me. I didn't like the insecurity of, the paycheck situation and how that all went. So for me, I thought, education's going to be the key for me because I need to know my path. I don't like not knowing where things are coming from or what's next. But again, I just thought I need just to be the best I can be because that's what my mama always told me. So for today, I want to feature or really talk about 3 areas, and I want to do that briefly for you all. But one of the things I want to talk about is just being organized and ready. Every day, whatever that day is about or what your schedule is that day, be organized and ready. Second is write and tell your own story. And finally, I want to end with persisting to grow. So, just as I begin, as I mentioned and as I was introduced, I think about that intensity, that persistence. But for me, that always was about just saying yes. And I know Joyce mentioned that a lot, about taking advantage, volunteering to do things, being the first to do things. But for me, fear is real, right? And for a lot of us, some of us are filled with a lot of fear. Some of us, periodically, depends on the situation. But when you're in a new situation and you're learning or a new atmosphere, a new internship, a new job opportunity, it can be a little scary. It can be a little bit intimidating. But I just want you to think every day as you organize your day, you begin your day with thinking, I'm ready for it. I'm in a situation where I'm open to the possibilities. I'm open to that. And for me, that's always worked because what was not mentioned in my introduction, when I began my career almost 30 years ago, and I embraced the age situation, I know a lot of us don't, but you know what? I earned these wrinkles, and I earned this wisdom, and I earned all the things. So I'm 52 years old, and I'm on my 30th year as a professional. So, but, okay. I guess I get a clap for acknowledging my age, so whatever. But you know what? I'm not even going to try to fool anybody, so that's what it is. But for me, starting off that many years ago, I started off as a first grade teacher. And the reason I did that was because I loved children. I loved to learn. I knew how important educators were in my life. And I knew because the education that was around me and those that didn't have an education, how important it was. And teaching children to read, I thought, was the best I could do for humanity in my humble space, in my humble classroom. That's what I thought I could do. But the reason now I'm in this other situation, and I work for Texas A&M, and I'm a director and all the things, it's because I said yes every day. It didn't matter the situation. And if I realized after I said yes to something, or I committed to something, or I volunteered for something, and then I realized, oh my goodness, this isn't for me, wait, bad choice, it doesn't fit into all the other things I have going on, or I'm overcommitted, then I could go back and say no, or you know what, let me adjust that commitment. But always start off with saying yes. Don't be afraid, and don't let fear ever keep you from doing something. Anything else, if you're overcommitted, okay. If you're overwhelmed, okay, or you really don't meet the expectations of a job, okay, that's okay to say no. But do not let fear keep you from saying yes, okay? I'm putting that on every single one of you. Don't do it. So with all of that, I just think that when you say yes and when you commit and you volunteer, as Joyce was mentioning, you have to study up, be prepared, organize your day. And with my own 3 children, ever since they were littles, I would say, where's your calendar? Where's your planner? You know, now everybody uses phones and things like that, but still, I preach the hard copy, paper and pencil type situation. Where's your planner? Let's plan your day. And they would say, oh, Mama, please, I've got it. And even my students and all that I work with, I would say, plan your day. What's your day look like? And the reason we do that is to maximize your day, right? You want everything accountable. It helps you be responsible. You're taking care of your business. You can't just let it go to, oh, I know I have a great memory, I'll remember. But the problem with that is during the day, stuff happens, right? And your memory is affected by your energy levels as well. But I will tell you, if you have it written down or in your phone or somewhere where you can visit it during the day, that will help you manage your day, help you reprioritize sometimes, shift things. But also, brain research tells us too, that if you plan your day, it removes a lot of the stress in your life, which zaps your energy, right? Because you're not always so fearful about, okay, what do I need to do today? What did I do? Did I do everything I needed to do? All you have to do is check your list. And you check your list, it's less stressful. So think about that, be prepared and steady. And I want to tell you too, especially you interns and those that are just starting your career, be prepared. Anytime you're invited to participate in a meeting or any kind of organizational gathering, study up. Even if you don't have a situation where you're going to have to deliver a message or information, study up. Because if there's an opportunity for you to provide insight, if anybody just happens to ask you a question, like, what do you think about this? You have an opinion, okay? You're ready for it. And if you do have an area where you will be delivering information or you will be speaking, certainly know your business. Know more about your business than you even think was assigned for you that day. And also, just a little extra tidbit, know what everybody else is talking about. Because when you're able to do that, and there's a point during the meeting or the organizational event that there's going to be dialogue, you can contribute. You can have relationships or conversations with people that were presenting something that maybe wasn't your area of expertise, but at least you brought some awareness to what they're speaking about, their background, and that helps you already improve your networking because you're contributing. You're just not sitting there listening. And don't think also that there is a point in time where it is just good to listen, right? It's good to listen and be quiet, especially if we don't have something that is, that's really contributing to the conversation. We don't just want to speak unless we have something to say, but we always want to be prepared. So study up, be organized in all the things so that you do represent yourself in a way that people look to you and go, that person, she's on it. She didn't have to know that. Oh my gosh, they knew that. I didn't even expect them to know that. And that's impressive. And you are building your reputation, your character. And that goes back to, again, something else Joyce said was about integrity. And I have to spend a little time on integrity because integrity is everything. Now let's be honest. No one is perfect. Well, I know I'm not. I don't know. Maybe some of you are, but I'm certainly not. And the thing with integrity is it follows you everywhere you go. It's your happy or not so happy shadow that follows you. And it's day to day, right? So our days are filled with relationships, conversations, commitments, promises, all the things. But to have integrity throughout your life, and again, sometimes it ebbs and flows, but the thing is, work diligently. Be persistent in guarding your integrity. And what integrity is about telling the truth. Being a person of their word. Not only in how you say what you say, but what you say, the words you choose. Be protective and be very careful of the words you choose. It's so easy for some of us to just start talking and using, sometimes we use slang in and out, and sometimes it's totally appropriate, sometimes it's not. But also be sensitive to the people in the room or who might be listening to you. Because again, we all have backgrounds, we have priorities, we all have different opinions on things. So just be sensitive and aware, just as you would hope somebody would be sensitive with you. So in that integrity with word and deed, also, if you say you're going to do something, do it. If you are committing to an assignment, a project, picking up a friend, going to lunch, you say you're going to call him, call him. And if you cannot, whatever it is, big or small, if it's texting someone back, or if it's a huge project that Commissioner Dimerson puts on you, do it. And if you cannot do it, the best thing you can do is go back to that person and say, I'm still working on it. I'm going to be a little bit late. Can I have a little more time? And there's nothing wrong with that. Always go back and say, commit, that's great. Try to meet that target. Exceed that target if you can. But if you need more time, don't wait till that day to tell them. Let them know. Because again, that goes back to building your integrity and letting people know that you are responsible, you're respective of their time and their requests. So always protect your integrity. And guys, if you mess up, that's okay. We start fresh every day, but it's about the consistencies, the averages of what you do is who you are. As far as writing and telling your story, Joyce talked a lot about that too. And what I want to say to you is something that she said. Basically, you never know who is watching and listening. And this goes back to, of course, this amazing opportunity today, this event, but it's just in your day-to-day. Maybe somebody that works down the hall or in a different office, everybody's listening to you. If you just think about it, if you just kind of close your eyes and you think about someone that's in your building, everybody has an opinion of everybody, right? It might just be fleeting, or it might be something that's really meaningful. But just know that people are always watching and listening. And just a little short story. It was probably about 15 years ago that I had my first encounter with the Commissioner Dimerson. He was not the Commissioner Dimerson he is today. But one thing that was resonant to me about him was just not only that he was an amazing professional. At the time he was working, I believe, through the governor's office, but just his spirit, the same spirit he has now, how enthusiastic he was, how personal he was, and how very much he was generous in his words and actions to his team. He never bragged about himself. He always, lifted up everyone around him. And he was very enthusiastic about not only what he was doing, what his colleagues were doing, but what you were doing. And that left a mark. So as my career paths have changed over, especially the past 15 years, and my roles and responsibilities, because I went years without communicating with TWC and definitely the commissioner. But when I had an opportunity to reconnect with him, I did. And I was so eager to do that, not just because of his commissioner chair that he sits in, but because who he was as an individual. So that's just a note about how you can meet somebody, have an interaction with someone so many years ago, and you may or may not ever see them again, but they left a mark on you. So you're doing that, just as he did that for me, you do that to other people as well. So just know, people are always watching and listening. And with that goes your presentation. Again, something Joyce mentioned. What you do online, obviously we've all been lectured about that kind of thing, but how you carry yourself every day. And guys, listen, I'm as lazy as they come as far as putting myself together sometimes, but I know every time I even, go to the store, because that's when you see people you didn't want to see, right? You're gonna put on your big glasses for me, because I always feel like every time I put on my really big sunglasses, I'm invisible. I don't know why I think that, maybe because I want to believe that if I put on my really big glasses, no one sees me, I see them. But that's usually when people see you and hear you, is when you were hoping nobody would. But definitely, if you have some place to go, especially work-related, just know that you're marketing yourself every time. And again, as you close your eyes and you think about anybody, it could be a colleague again down the hallway, it could be one that you sit next to. If you close your eyes, you have an image of them, right? So guard your image, as Joyce was mentioning earlier. And then I want to talk about the self-care aspect. When you are an intern, you know, certainly you have lots of responsibility. You probably still have a lot of academic work to do. You have your own family and personal business as well. We all have to take time to take care of ourselves. And that could be as little as, you know, just going for a walk. If you have an animal, if you're walking your dog, listening to the birds, sitting by water, whatever it is, making some cookies for me is everything. But just whatever it is, it just brings you to a space. If it's listening to a podcast or certain kind of music, give yourself that. Now, some of us have really crazy schedules and family lives and things like that. Even if it's 5 minutes, just give yourself a moment to, okay, I need to breathe. Because so many of us will go years just going, and we don't even realize how much we're so tensed out, and that energy is spreading to everyone around us. And when you have that kind of tensed up energy, you know, that's not the warm and fuzzy that really people want to be next to, right? So just take time to care for yourself. Some people use that as a mani and a pedi type situation, opportunity. Okay, that's great, but just feed your soul. Take care of yourself so that you can be that person for others. And on that area, the other note that I want to end on is forgiveness. Yes, you hear all the time about forgiving others, but what I want to say to each of you is forgive yourself. Now again, I'm not perfect. I've made plenty of mistakes in my life. And I hope for you, if you've ever made any, that they've been small. But I know I've made some doozies in my life. And I can be the hardest judge on myself, and it's hard to forgive yourself. But I want to tell you, please focus on forgiving yourself, whatever you've done. And not only whatever you've done, or maybe even what has been done to you, or the mistakes that you've made, or the times that you weren't prepared and you should have been, all the things. The test you failed, the class you didn't make the grade you wanted to make, whatever it was, forgive yourself. Just acknowledge it, realize that you need to do better next time, but move on. Because if we hold on to all the junk that we've done or have been done to us, then we can't move on, right? So acknowledge it, appreciate it, say goodbye to it, and move on. And when that creepy little thing creeps back up, because it does, if not every other month, every other year or so, acknowledge it that it's there, forgive yourself, and move on. Just be the best you can be in your situation, because our situations will affect how we're able to handle things as well. So forgive yourself and those around you. But most definitely, we can all be better by being better to ourselves. And the last area I want to talk to you guys about is persisting as you grow. Now, a lot of you are very young in your career, and you're just getting started. And what I want to say to you are 3 areas that I really want you to focus on. Number 1 is to force yourself every day to show appreciation and gratitude. When you open your eyes in the morning, even if you had a horrible night, focus on the positive. Even if you have to say it out loud or you whisper it to yourself, just show gratitude that, you know, number 1, you're able to wake up. Whatever good is around you, focus on that. Show appreciation. There's that old saying, that for which you appreciate appreciates. So if you appreciate, you show appreciation for all the good that is around you, all those that are around you that are providing support and love, all the things, it'll show appreciation back to you. It'll help you realize all the things that you really do have rather than the things you don't have. And then I hope for you, number 2, is that you choose to be a lifelong learner. Every day learn something. It could just be watching a podcast or listening to a podcast or watching some YouTube about video about making something, doing something, just hearing something that might be inspirational or just teaches you something new. Just read something. You don't have to take a full-blown class or anything like that. But that keeps you growing. It keeps you nimble in your attitudes and the way you see things, your perspectives, and how it can really add to the work you're doing. It's funny to me. I try very hard to listen to different kinds of music. I have very wide-ranging tastes in all areas. But to me, that helps in my creativity, because I don't just like staying in my lane of what's expected for me or what my responsibilities are day to day. I like listening to all kinds of different things, reading different things, hearing from different people that are much like, different than me. And I really like to even hear people that have different or opposing attitudes, or even if it's in politics or any philosophy for that matter. I like to hear those views because 2 things. Number 1, it'll solidify my own beliefs, or number 2, it'll provide some insight that maybe I hadn't even considered. And most definitely, it will allow me, hopefully, to be more empathetic in the way I move forward in life. And then finally, I want to say to you, save your money. Save money. This is huge. So I know for some of you, you haven't quite started getting that big paycheck. And when you do, oh my goodness, I could not believe when I got my first paycheck. And back in the day, being a first grade teacher, I will tell you how much I made. I made the big $22,500 a year, and I thought, yes, I made it. I can do this. So, but the thing is, you know, as the years have gone by, and thank goodness my salary has changed a little bit, but as I've worked with young people and my own children, I always say to them, do not live according to what your paycheck is. Always live below your means. And once you do that from the start, and I'm telling you, do this from the start, because if you start getting those paychecks and you start spending that out, you can't ever go back, right? You start off saving until it hurts. It's just like when you're getting ready to start working out and exercising. It hurts, right? It hurts and feel good, but you improve. There's improvements that you see and you feel better about yourself. The same works with money. So, save money. And this is a little bit more information I was going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you. You need to have 3 pots of money, people. You need to have that little stash in a sock in a drawer somewhere. That's one. That's for emergency. That's when somebody comes over and you really they want to go out to eat, but you don't have any money that's in the bank and it's not within your budget, but you can pull out a little, 20 or something like that. Okay, that's that. And then you want to have your savings account. And I know we have individuals from financial institutions here, so they can tell you more about that. You want to have your savings account for those bigger situations, maybe something's going on with your vehicle, and then doesn't matter that you're not 52 like me, but someday you will be, so you might be 22, but start saving for your retirement now, okay? And there's no shame in shopping sales, shop sales. So with all of that, I thank you so much for your time. I hope that you're able to persist in all that you do, and no doubt, not only will you accomplish all of your goals, you'll exceed them, and those around you will just love you for it, and you'll inspire them by the way you live your life. Thank you so much.
I mean, another round of applause for Dr. Segovia. Thank you for touching base on self-care, not being afraid, and finance. That was a good touch there. So we have a break coming up. We're going to have a 5-minute break, but please come back for our Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board panel. You'll be in for a wonderful experience hearing about the internships from our former interns and employer. So we have a lot in store for you. So please come back in 5 minutes, and we'll see you then. Hello. Maybe that was a little bit longer than 5 minutes, but we are back, and you have a great panel in store. We have the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board panel, the value of internships and Texas Works program, and we're in collaboration in this amazing initiative, and I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Lisa Shaw.
Thank you guys so much. This next part of our presentation will be interactive. And so we're gonna have a panel discussion here from Texas Works, and we have lots of folks here, and I'll let them introduce themselves in just a second. But I just wanted to go ahead and take a moment and thank every single person for being here today. I hope everybody is getting some good information today and things that you're going to be able to use going forward. This has been a great presentation. I have learned so much from Dr. Segovia, and I am Joyce Johnson, and had some relatable stories that I thought about even from Julian Alvarez sharing about picking cabbage. Everything that we do in life up to this point has been an internship in some regard, learning how to cook or learning how to sew. And my mother was a carpenter by trade, which is not common for women to go into carpentry, and I didn't know that that was unusual. So I've spent my life doing unusual things and really appreciating all of those experiences. Like, I'm okay that I know how to use a bandsaw and can put in a ceiling fan, you know, that's okay. So I love having all of those strengths. I hope some of you are being a little reflective too, and learning that you have some strengths maybe that you didn't realize earlier. So Joyce Johnson asked you to raise your hand first. So I just want to plant a seed to have some questions ready. You have a panel of professionals here who work with interns or have worked as interns, who help work with intern programs. You're never going to have a better opportunity to ask a panel of specialists here. So I'm going to ask some questions, and you're going to be welcome to ask questions too. So thank you guys for participating with us today. This is how this is going to go, just a little agenda here. We'll do some introductions. My name is Lisa Shaw, and everybody else will introduce themselves in just a moment. We'll have some Q&A. All of the panelists are welcome to answer all of the questions, but not all of them may feel strongly that they have something to contribute to a question, or somebody else may have already captured that. And I know lunchtime is close, so we're going to keep that goal in mind too. And audience participation is encouraged, and then we'll have a moment just for some final thoughts. So very quickly, this is the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. This is the Texas Works team. So you've heard a lot about internships today and employer expectations today, and what we're bringing to the table ourselves as interns and participants in this. And Texas Works, I like to think of it as kind of like that hinge piece, right? So we have some control over that door a little bit, and we want that door to be as wide open as possible for diverse groups of interns and for diverse groups of employers. So we are helping together with the Texas Workforce Commission to bring both of those groups together. So Vanessa Malone, she'll introduce herself in just a moment. She is our assistant director. I'm the internship coordinator, so I work to bring students to the table and develop relationships with employers as well. So in hopes that all of you guys are meeting in the right places and getting a great internship opportunities. Amy Dalton is on our team too. I know she's right here in the audience, and she is our outreach specialist and amazing to work with. Thank you, Amy. And then here is our panel. So Lauren, do you want to take a moment and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Lauren. I was born and raised in the Rio Grande Valley. I'm also a 956er, like the commissioner earlier was saying. I did my undergrad at UT Austin, Hook'em Horns, and then I went on to law school at Texas Tech. Now I practice law in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay, excellent. Cassie, you want to take a moment and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello. My name's Cassie Gomez. I too am a 956er. Very proud of it too. I went to UT Austin, completed my undergrad in kinesiology. Made my parents super proud when I decided to switch careers altogether. And I followed my dream to become a teacher. Finished my master's program at UT in early childhood special education, and now work at the Rice School of Austin, which is a nonprofit preschool in East Austin.
Excellent. Savon?
Hi, my name is Savin. I grew up in Austin and did my undergrad at UT Austin, majoring in computer science and business. I'm only 1 year out of college, so my advice may not be as valuable as anyone else on this board, but I can hopefully maybe provide a perspective that's similar to y'all, since I was just in your seats. And I now work at Google.
Hi everybody, I hope you can hear me. I'm Kalea Youngblood. I am the Chief Marketing Officer for the Austin Board of Realtors. I grew up in Miami, Florida. I have a dual degree at Florida State University in Mass Media Communications and International Affairs. And I've been at the Austin Board of Realtors now for about 9 years.
And Vanessa Malone.
Pleasure to be here. My name is Vanessa Malone. I'm the Assistant Director at the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board for Work-Based Learning Programs. My background, I started off actually getting my degree in education. I was a teacher, middle and high school teacher at Texas A&M Keensville in South Texas. And then I transitioned to pursue further education, get my master's at Concordia University here in Austin, Texas, to become a principal. And then I decided to go wherever the wind would take me, and I ended up at the Coordinating Board in Higher Education. So that's an opportunity, just taking those chances and saying yes. I'm currently pursuing my doctorate to continue to develop personally and to continue to be able to contribute to serve our community. So happy to meet you.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, that's worth a round of applause. Absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our Q&A session here. Okay. Anybody have any sparks of questions, things that you would really like to know if we're not hitting on something that's important to you? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Kenneth. I'm with Austin Community College, and I'd like to know what y'all's thoughts are as far as, because internships are hard enough to get, as you know, with students that are in college, but I work specifically with the dual credit P-Tech programs, career programs that are designed to go directly into the workforce. And so our high school students are finding it really as a struggle to get into internships while they're in high school. So what can they do to possibly set themselves apart or possibly get that internship over maybe someone that's about to graduate from or in college or maybe has a little bit more experience?
Okay, that's a really great question, and that's for high school students that are going in. So
Yes.
you work with the CTE department.
Yeah, so they're already graduating high school with a degree or an associate degree or a certificate to go into the workforce, and some of these programs do require internships, but they have to find on their own. And part of my role is to help them find those internships, but I even struggle myself. And so I just want to hear what y'all's thoughts are on what we can do to make them more successful.
Great
I can speak to that because we run the P-Tech program with Aikens High School, and I can see where that gap is. What we do at the Austin Board of Realtors, our job is to provide those shadowing opportunities and real life exposure to the industry. So what I would say is to provide those students or help those students by giving them a list of employers in that field that they are graduating from, and maybe build a relationship with that entity, whether it's Baylor Scott White or Dell or IBM or whatever the area of growth opportunity is, and then usually the Human Resources Department can help bridge that gap and provide those opportunities. That's been my experience working with the high school students as they get to that graduation point.
Excellent advice. Anybody else?
Lisa, I'll comment from here before Joyce hits that. In a number of the cities, the city of Dallas and the city of Houston in particular, they have huge high school initiatives. And so if you're here in Austin, so that's something maybe the Austin City Council or the mayor's office, an initiative that's targeted towards high school students. There's also an organization called Ladders for Leaders. You can kind of Google that or whatever. I know there was an initiative right outside of Austin where they were partnering with employers to hire high school students for internship opportunities, paid internship opportunities as well. So there may be a number of things that are out there that have been done in other communities that we might replicate if it's not in your respective community, doing it that way. Thank you.
The Chamber of Commerce also has a District to College 70% subcommittee. I serve on the committee, and after this, I'll try to connect you there with all of the area superintendents. And their sole purpose is to get 70% of high school students to file for some sort of post-high school education, whether it's a trade license or community college or college, something. And so they are very connected with the schools and the business community as well. So that might be another avenue to connect with.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner, for chiming in on that. That was really helpful. And thank you, Kalea. That was helpful, too. Anybody else have any ideas? Because that is, you're right, it's critical need right now for high school students.
I'll chime in.
Okay.
So I'm also an adjunct professor at San Jack College in Houston. So one of the things we did with the students was we asked students, who do you know in your family that works where? And then we asked other students, who do you know in your family that works where? And we made a list. And so we had a student that was in the auto department. And so one of the students' uncle owned an auto shop. And we were able to do some matches that way. And I know that seems very simple, we have a lot of students. But it is a start of just asking the students, who do we know? And who could they connect me with or connect the other students with so that we can bridge that gap and find opportunities for them. And they weren't all paid, but they were internships.
Thank you, Joyce Johnson. I can't say your first name without your last name now. It's Joyce Johnson. I have to stop myself from saying, hello, I am Joyce Johnson. So great job. I also wanted to point out, too, I know from my work at Aikens with internships there, that we worked with the city of Austin, and they have so many different divisions from Parks and Rec to automotive to their park facilities and everything. So they had a lot of different opportunities there and were wonderful to work with in internship opportunities. I have a great story about my student who worked in their finance department. And I know we had a question in the back. I saw your hand up. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Alana Henry, LPV intern at Prairie View University. So, I know there was a question about how do high school students find internship opportunities. And my question is more so, me personally, I kind of always with the untraditional route of getting some type of internship where I literally would find somebody I know that can kind of relate to me and walk in their office and be like, can I do X, Y, Z for you? And usually they're not let you because who don't want free work? So doing stuff like that, kind of approaching them myself, whether I'm finding them through Google or I know somebody, so I went to DeSoto High School, whether I found somebody at DeSoto or I found somebody I knew, I just be like, hey, I found you on Google because I see that you have this criteria and I have this one. Be like, do you mind if I do some free work for you? And 9 out of 10 they'll usually let you because, like I said, who's going to turn that down? So I was wondering, how would you guys feel about people taking the untraditional route and saying, hey, I can do this for you instead of going the traditional route of applications and interviews and resumes and all of that?
I would just like to say that, one, I love your idea, and number two, I love your spirit and your energy and your self-advocacy. That is beautiful. I think taking an untraditional route is sometimes the very best route that we have to go. I went from working in oil and gas, and when my son was little, I thought, this is never going to work with the schedule and the life that I want to have with him. And I told my boss, I'm going to get a career in education. That's really where my passion is. And he said, Lisa, you have lost your mind. You are crazy. I said, that might be true, but this is what I'm going to go do. And so I went to every single middle school and high school and let them know my credentials and that I was taking an alternative route to get certified and that I wanted to be a teacher. I had no experience. I really didn't know what I was getting into, and I couldn't have been happier about my choice. I got hired 2 days at Aikens before school started. It was a rough year, but I was Teacher of Promise that year. So I was Rookie of the Year essentially. So I made my choice and I made it work, and I've never looked back. I've been very happy about that. So alternative routes and letting people know your intention and what you want to do and what you can bring to the table, I think that's perfect. I think that's a great choice to make. Anybody else? Ooh, I said it all and got a gold star. Did y'all see? Oh, dang it. Okay.
I first of all really admire the types of things that you're doing to get internships. I did something similar. So I work in tech, and my background's in software engineering, but I was interested in real estate like 2 years ago. So I emailed the local real estate company called Storybuilt, and I asked if I could just learn about real estate and do an internship for them. And that I had software engineering experience, and so I could help them out with anything they needed on the tech side in exchange. And that's how I got that internship. And the only reason I mention that is because, like, after thinking about this a little bit, I think it's actually not untraditional. This is actually just networking, and you're just really good at it. So I think really I would encourage everyone to go through untraditional communication channels. So if you're interested in a company or an industry, find the person on LinkedIn that is like a second or a third in your network, and message them and ask for a coffee chat. Because once you get to know these people, they can give you referrals, they can tell the hiring manager like the different things about you, and those are great ways to get internships outside of just straight applying.
The Austin Women's Alliance also has a really great mentor-mentee-ship. And I've mentored several young women professionals over the years and watched them grow into fabulous, professional avenues. So that's something you might want to check out as well. It's free, it's easy to get involved, and a great way to meet people and network.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's see. I want to ask a question, and this is really open, so some of you may have some good answers for this too, but as employers and professionals, what is something that you wish students knew coming in for interviews? Any part of that process, the application, the resume, the dress, the speaking, any of those things. And then also students, what is something that you wish employers knew about students that you don't feel like they already know? Okay, so I'm giving both of y'all an assignment to think about, and feel free to chime in on any of those points. So what are something you wish employers maybe knew about you coming into this, into the world of work and full-on adulting? What is something that you wish students knew before they come into the interview? What would you tell them to increase their chances of success?
Proper handshake and eye contact.
Now, in light of COVID, does that still feel equally as important? Do you feel like it's any, like a fist bump is okay? Or, let's just get down to it, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a factor, but I think we're all here today as we come out of COVID. It's even more important to have a firm, proper handshake and look somebody in the eye. I think we've lost that. It feels a little second. It should be your second nature to be able to look somebody firmly in the eye and exude your confidence as a professional and as somebody that you want somebody else to pay attention to. So straight up and down, web to web. I've done a lot of seminars on handshake. It's really important.
Absolutely, I totally agree. We spent the first 2 days of my classes at Aikens learning how to handshake, and we did it every single day with every single student as they walked in the door. So we knew how to shake hands. Yes, sir. And then we have a young lady in the back. Yes.
Yeah, this was a question that I was going to ask that's kind of related to this, but just coming out of COVID and just transitioning into a business world that incorporates all these wonderful new technological innovations that
people like Savin are creating for us.
Mm-hmm.
How, and I guess each one of y'all can answer this, but how do you think the business world is and just the professional world is changing with new technology and new ways of communicating with people that may not necessarily be a firm handshake and eye contact?
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the non-traditional methods of communication that are now developing with this? That's an excellent question, by the way.
I could speak for like teachers. Like I think despite COVID and everything, our parents, our students still want human connection at the end of the day. So we could do the Zoom meetings all day. We could have a meeting that's supposed to be an email, right? But at the end of the day, we want face-to-face time because that's where you get to communicate the non-verbals, you know what I mean? And really get a feel for who you're talking to, what you're talking about, and how you feel about your projects that you have going on. So I predict that we're still gonna go back to in person at some point for important like meetings and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. So still some Zoom in there. I feel even though we're back in person, we're still having more Zoom meetings and team meetings and stuff like that. So than we were previous, even though we don't have to, but you know. It's a
I
little
think you can
easier than looking
expect
for
your
people.
first maybe 1 or 2 meetings to be virtual, and then you'll go in person for the sort of final interview. At least that's what we're doing now. That was different before. We went from all in person to all Zoom to now a little bit of both.
Valerie, go ahead.
So I just want to add, regarding those virtual meetings and those types of alternative gatherings, it's really important that, of course, you don't wear the blanket around your shoulders. That's very important, number one. But also to just try to mentally place yourself in the meeting. So you might have a drink in front of you because it's a long meeting, but don't pull out a sandwich just because you're at home. Some people, it's really disruptive and communicates disrespect to the group when people start, just because they're at home. So they might start eating or they might start petting their cats or, all the other distractions. So just remember that. And especially if you ever have interactions with folks from, internationally, other groups, it's very important, again, to try to regulate, normalize your gesturing, and also, again, what you're doing. You want to keep it to a minimum because, again, those people don't know you and your specialness or your unique way of your facial expressions. So you might just want to, of course, exude your enthusiasm and your expertise, but just try to keep it a little bit more within the box, the frame, because it reads differently.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent advice, and you're completely right. Just make sure that you are really in that moment and your behavior is as if we're sitting at a table all together. So that's excellent advice. Anyone else?
Can I say something?
Of course.
Hi, I'm Julian from HR. We're for SNL Savings, Texas Department of Savings Mortgage Lending. And they really do, as far as technology, the problem we've been having is that as a state agency, it's required that a state application is submitted. So when you're putting in C resume, it's not working for us. We have to have it by statute, a state application. And the more information, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about you. We're going to be basing who we call your interview and so forth. What you put on the application. We can lose the resume, but what stands is what's on that application. So that's really important. Also, for interviews, take a look at your background. Okay? If you can blur it or put something professional back there, that would be wonderful. It can be very distracting. You get all kinds of stuff going on in the background.
Mhm.
Education, make sure it's completely filled out, make sure that you're relating to us what you do. Use I have, not we have. We want to know what you're doing. So, what your responsibility to do this one. We're looking for an intern. We're building an internship program right now, which is why I'm here. We also are actively hiring, and it's in the banking, finance, economic industry. So, we do regulation. We're looking for investigators. We're looking for finance examiners. We're starting from the entry level 1s, 2s, all the way up to 7s. So we are actively looking for professionals in this field. We even have admin assistants. Where we've had developed admin assistants, they moved on up to legal department. So the opportunities are out there to gain the experience you need. And unfortunately, right now, especially in my particular age, we are dependent on the video stuff. You know, the technology isn't, just stuff like that. So I hope that answers your question. But again, can't stress enough, especially from my agency, and I've been in the hiring capacity for different agencies, probably about almost 20 years, and 30 years total with the state. So I can tell you right now, I'm return to work retiree, because there is a need to hire state employees. And more information is better. Don't give us wooden lighters and zingers. We want bread, we want butter, we want the buffet.
I'm so glad that you said that. Thank you so much for standing up and saying that. And I think you are 100% spot on filling out that application instead of saying see resume. See resume says I am too lazy to fill out this blank. So while you do attach your resume on there, just add it on there. There is something to be said for jumping through the hoops and for some of the agency works and some particular work that you might do for like an accounting firm or a law firm or something like that, or going into teaching. There's simply some hoops we have to jump through, and that is part of adulting. So thank you so much for bringing that up. I'm sorry I keep saying adulting. I do have a 21-year-old son. We're in this right now from a mom point of view. So I know we have a young lady in the back middle with a question, and then we have a couple more. I've got you. Yes. Okay, so you're asking for advice to help connect graduate students more with employers and some better ways to widen those pathways, cast wider nets?
Yes, as far as like apprenticeships, internships, shadowing.
Okay.
I'll just share from my own personal experience. I had kind of forgotten this part of my life, but I was an administrative intern for 3 years at the school that I worked at. So I'm very much with you on the opportunity to continue to learn. And I would say that if I had not had that experience, I probably wouldn't have finished my master's. I probably wouldn't be where I am today, and I probably wouldn't have learned so much. So to your point, having the opportunities like what TWC has been able to provide for graduate students is equally valuable and important. So probably an area that we can continue to explore and expand upon statewide. But from an employer stance, it's just seeing the value of talent and understanding that growth doesn't just stop when you graduate. From your certificate program, your associates, or your bachelor's, as you move into your master's, the growth continues. And we have to be poured into and to be nurtured. And so that's important. So right there with you, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for those 3 years.
When I think you perked up TWC's ears, Texas Workforce Commission, as well as any employers in the room of, oh, this might be a new pool that we can start looking at of our graduate students too. So you may have brought up a point or re-brought up a point that needs to be revisited and grown. So thank you so much for bringing that up. I know we have a question from you, and then we're coming back to you, okay? Excellent. Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you for sharing. Michelle's one of our Texas Works employers too. So she is newly joined us, and we're newly working together to help paid internships happen for students and to help supplement that pay too. So we're happy that you're here today. Thank you. And you know what? Thank you, young lady in the back, for raising your hand and speaking up, because you just made a connection. You proved Joyce Johnson's point, didn't you, to speak up? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ouch. Mm-hmm. 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 Don't be afraid. I love that you said that too. Don't be afraid to take that initiative to follow back up and say, I was hoping to hear from you, you know, when can we schedule a meeting? It's okay to take that initiative. An employer isn't going to say, I don't know, this kid showed an awful lot of initiative. I don't think we're definitely going to hire him, you know, or her. So it's okay to take that initiative in those unconventional pathways. So you had a question or comment?
Yeah, just to respond to that question of interns to employers.
Yes.
To be aware of, I would encourage to not underestimate the value of providing context for employers. In my experience, when you let someone know the impact of what they're doing, they tend to do better. So if you just ask something to get done, yes, they're your intern, they're working with you, they're going to get it done. But if you ask them to do something and let them know, no, this is who it helps, this is what doing this, and you take it a bit further, it'll help them out more. That's usually when you get that above and beyond response that people are always looking for. So just taking a second, providing context instead of here are these papers. Just helps them out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought that up. And Michelle, I'm glad that you brought up the C resume again too, because where you put references available by request. Just put some references on there. If you have 6 references, put 6 references on there. We may only call 3 of them, but don't put references available by request. You're adding an additional step for somebody else. You're putting a barrier up. I want to see that you have your references on there. And that's really nice to see when you have, like, I've worked at this accounting firm, I've worked at this law firm, and these are the references that I've had. People are sponsors, right, who have already seen how we work and can speak to us, for us to add that on there already. So just another little tidbit from people who look at resumes. So I think we are getting a little long on time, so I am just going to open this up. If anybody on the panel has any closing thoughts, pieces of advice, inspirational words, just something nice to say, and the audience as well too, if you have another burning question, feel free to connect with any of us at our lunch.
I did have one thing as a little tip that I thought I would share. So when I was at UT Austin, I was in the business school. And one of the first things that they make us do is prep a resume. And so if you don't have one, it's really intimidating. It was very intimidating for me, but you know, we in the business school, they put us through a class and someone helped us through it. But it's available to everyone. It's a template. So if you just Google McCombs School of Business resume template, it's a template. Literally resume template, go in, fill it. It even has comments on what your margins should be, how to display your name, but also action words to describe yourself. So if you're in a position where you want to start, you know, reaching out for opportunities, but you know that you need a resume, maybe you have one, just want to double check to see another resume for reference, Google McCombs School of Business resume template, and that's a great starting point.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. I know Texas Workforce also has lots of resources for creating that all-important first resume, and you're never done with your resume. I update my resume every single time I do a new project, and then I pare it down whenever I need to share it with someone. So you're never finished with a resume. Awesome. Cassie?
I would just say, I don't know why this is like coming to my mind right now. I come from a family of hard labor workers, so just do not ever underestimate the value of good work ethic. Like on top of anything, like every employer I've met, you have an education, that's wonderful, it's so important, but can you work? Do you want to work? Are you hungry? Are you passionate about what you do? I feel like that above all, I'd rather take somebody with less education and good work ethic over education personally. So yeah, just don't forget that.
Absolutely. Great point. Savan?
First of all, I just want to reiterate what Lauren said. The McCombs resume template is the best resume template I've seen. It's really good. The first thing I want to say is that little things matter the most in the context of COVID and things being fully remote. So you need to have a good background. You don't want to have tech issues with your voice or camera. You should consider getting a ring light for interviews. A lot of people that I work with in meetings do this, and some people don't, and it affects perception, which matters a lot, because in COVID, all you see is the person through a screen. And so that also means that one of the only ways that recruiters are seeing you is through your resume as well. So you need to have a good resume. There are websites online where you can upload your resume, and it will tell you how digital friendly your resume is, because there are different resume formats, and companies use parsers to sometimes automatically filter out candidates. So it will tell you, here are the keywords that their process detects, here are parts that their system could not actually OCR or whatever. The McCombs resume template is really good. Just want to plus one that again. Don't edit in Google Docs, it will get rid of the margins. You have to use Microsoft Word.
Say that one more time, please.
Yeah, edit in Microsoft Word is what I was saying. Sorry, I know I'm going a little bit long, but
that's okay.
I just wanted to answer a couple of questions that had come up earlier as well. So with the business with a lot of things being remote going forward, I think that means that a lot of hiring process will be remote. I was recruiting when COVID first started, and that meant that I could recruit for companies that were even international because their hiring process did not mandate that I needed to be in person. So if I was a high schooler, for example, looking for an internship, I don't need to look for internships that are just in Austin. I can apply all across the country. So you can do a lot of Googling to get you into different places. You can also use a lot of the job accumulation websites like Indeed, Glassdoor, and Reddit, as well as LinkedIn. There are also like a couple of other places I would recommend looking. So there's an app called Blind. It's an anonymous professional networking app, and a lot of people post on there about the different hiring processes, how they work. You should know what kind of questions you should be expecting. You should do mock interviews. Also from the context of an employer doing interviews, what we're really looking for is, would you be a good coworker? And so don't just give cookie cutter responses, show your personality. Generally, I think all of you are people that I would like to work with, but I think sometimes people are too afraid to show themselves. And so it kind of gives like a neutral signal, which is not bad, but not good either. So do mock interviews and generate the confidence that you need to be able to present yourself.
Mm-hmm. Excellent advice. And don't be afraid to ask previous employers, previous teachers that you've had, previous professors that you've had, hey, I've completed my resume. Can you look at this together with me? And usually if you say together with me instead of look at this and tell me what you think, you're going to get a lot more authentic feedback that way, and be able to edit some of those pieces of it that sometimes they don't stand out to us, but somebody else will look at it and see it too. And read it out loud. I have to read emails out loud that I've written to make sure that I don't have typos in them, but it's amazing when you read it out loud to yourself what you can find in there. So, sorry, just popped in my brain. Kalea?
I would just say ask for the job. Be able to articulate what is in your resume. I've interviewed so many people who it's a seemingly great interview and it's that awkward ending. I started selling homes when I was 21 for a home builder along the Texas coast. I didn't know what I was doing. I was totally green. My mom bought me my first suit, and it was like I was at the top of a, skyscraper building with a fish tank with the CEO, and definitely not qualified for the position. And I just looked at him, and I don't know where this came from, but I'm telling you now because I think that it's so important. And I said, I'm young, I'm smart, and I will work hard. Will you please give me this job? Mm-hmm. You can recognize that you might not be qualified, but you can also recognize that you are a go-getter. Mm-hmm. And I think that those are really important things to sort of dig deep and get, and I would just leave you with that.
Excellent. Fantastic. Before I close, I just wanted to we had one more question in the audience. Michaela, did you have your hand up? I wanted to make sure we address your question before we close real quick.
Thank you for that. You asked the question from interns to employers, like what is something that we wish y'all knew? Not you guys, you're great people. But sometimes with internships, they tend to just give like jobs, like they'll be like, oh, we can just do this problem paperwork or go through all the trash. Like we want to do the internship so we can learn about the job that we're applying for, right? We want to learn about the program. We want to learn because that's what we want to do. We want to see if that's what we want to do. So just keeping that humbleness and always being open to actually teach because that's what the internship is all about. And we really appreciate it.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, thank you.
Well, I think that was an excellent way to be able to close our session here today. That is what it's about. It's about opportunities, it's about access, it's about being able to learn, it's about having grace for oneself and others, because it's not going to always be perfect. You will make mistakes, but that's part of the learning process. And it's about advocating for yourself. I think there's 3 items. Please remember when you go into that interview, be yourself. Brag a little. It's okay to use I. I'm the worst at that. It's we all the time. When it's time for I'm like I actually. So be proud of what you've accomplished and let people know who you are. And practice, reach out. Practice makes perfect. So, it's okay. It's not always gonna be easy. Continue to persist, don't give up, and we appreciate you. We're gonna continue to have these kinds of dialogues and converse together so we can learn from one another. And I think, today we got a lot of great insight from each other so that we can continue to grow as a state. So thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Great job. I'm going to hand it over.
Another round of applause for this panel, and Lisa is moderating. Great job. I know you guys are probably starving. We have lunch that's going to be downstairs, and so a few things before we head out for lunch. Cassandra's going to come up and present some awards. Not awards, but actually recognition. Something that was in my mind. The Texas Works program, make sure that you find out about the Texas Works program. That's a very important program for employers. I represent the employers here in the state, and basically, if you're offering a $20 internship, they'll pay $10 of it. And so as an employer, tap into that untapped resource to make that paid internship even more possible. But we'll do lunch downstairs after Cassandra presents a little bit. But again, Lisa, thank you for moderating this panel. Thank you guys, the employers. Kalia from the Board of Realtors, that's an employer that's here in our state, and then Vanessa is representing the Higher Education Coordinating Board as well. And then Savan from Google. Savan, if you guys didn't know, he plays chess competitively. All right, at a big level, and so get to know him from that standpoint. And Cassie, thank you. And then Lauren, did I see you at a marathon one time, a half marathon?
Yeah, we ran a 5K together.
We ran a 5K together. So ask her time and my time. We'll talk about that later. All right, thank you guys again. Cassandra.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for your patience. And I have some recognitions from the governor's office for Miss Lauren Trevino and Cassie Gomez and Savan. Yes, sir. Savan. Now I need to read this. And let me take a picture before so we can read this. Sorry about that. Commissioner, can you give him?
She didn't have her eyeglasses.
Yeah, I don't, so I need to put my eyes on. I'm not no young intern anymore. Yes, so, yes, sir, can you read? Let me give you the
I've known
podium.
Cassandra for a long time. Actually, that's a story in itself. She was a high school intern back when I first started working, a young lady, and then our circles kind of came full circle around, similar to Dr. Segovia as well. But she was dating this little guy, whatever. I said, he's watching you a little bit too close and everything. So we go way back, but proud of what she's doing from that standpoint. But it says, State of Texas, Office of the Governor, to all to whom these presents should come, greetings. Know ye that this official certificate is presented to, in this case, Savan Nanbati. Got it kind of right there, okay? Savan Google Austin, in honor of being recognized on National Intern Day, Texas Workforce Commission. And of course, we're doing it with the Texas Twist Conference, Austin, Texas, July 28, 2022. Under the laws of the state of Texas, with all the rights, privileges, and emoluments thereunto are pertaining, I grant this official recognition. In testimony whereof I have signed my name and caused the seal of the state to be affixed at the city of Austin this 28th day of July 2022. Greg Abbott, Governor of Texas. And so much. All right, so while Cassandra is doing that, we're going to go ahead and adjourn and head downstairs for lunch. I think it's the Capitol Auditorium, and we have some guests that will show us downstairs as well. One of our volunteers is going to do that. So.
Hello, we're back from our luncheon and networking session, work session with TAGCB, Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. So now I hope we're alert and don't fall asleep. I know you had a big lunch, it was very good. So, but I will introduce our next phenomenal speaker and talented. You're gonna just not be disappointed with our Chris Collins. He has a very good message on success and how it can be universal to you. You can take it anywhere and it'll apply. You can apply it anywhere. So I will not keep him any longer waiting. Just give a round of applause for Chris C. Woo! Come on, Chris C.
Everybody do me a quick favor. Everybody stand up real quick. Stand up. Everybody stand up. Stand up real quick. All right, listen. My name's Chris Collins. We'll get into all that right now. But right now, I need everyone to stand up and raise your right hand. Okay? I want you to repeat after me. I want you to say, I promise. I promise. It's after lunch. I want you to say, I promise. I promise. On everything I love. On everything I love. Stop. everybody be next to you, but for the next few minutes, I want you to relax. We're going to take out all of the V's and add about 13 R's in every. It's airy. E-R-R-R-R-R-R-R, rock. It's not thing, it's thing. T-H-A-N-G. It's not love, it's love. On everything I love. Okay? All right, y'all ready? We're going to try this again. I promise.
I promise.
On everything I love.
On everything I love.
Yeah, we almost there, y'all. To do my best.
To do my best.
To do my duty.
To do my duty.
To be the dopest.
To be the dopest
Version.
Of
myself.
Of myself.
All right, now listen, don't sit down. I actually want everybody to stand up, and I want everyone, we can't fit on the stage, but I want everybody to kind of move in close. Move in close. I have a superstition, okay? You go back to your seats, but I got a superstition, so you put your hands down. You know, I feel like I was a police officer for a second. Like, put your hands up, grandma was just like, I'm good. Okay, good. So, come on in. I have a little tradition, okay? You all will hear very shortly some very important people in my life, and one of those people is my mom. So before every speech, like I'm talking about before every speech, I don't care if it's Exxon, I don't care if it's American Express, I don't care if it's the kindergartners that I just got finished talking to that were out in Fresno, California. We're gonna always say hi to my mama, okay? So listen, we're gonna do it right here. We're gonna get this right. Okay? Now listen, don't embarrass me, okay? Because my mama will come find you and whip you if you say something crazy in this video, all right? So I'm gonna start here, right? And then we're gonna go here. And what I want us to yell is Texas Intern Day. Because that's what we're here for, right? Right?
Right.
Chris, can I say, can we go Texas Interns Unite?
Yes. Let's be on brand. Let's be on brand. Texas Interns Unite. All right, y'all ready? On the count, listen, I want you to say it with your chest. Like, I want you to say it like you mean it. Texas Interns Unite, okay? All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Texas Interns Unite!
I like you, mama! All right, everyone go ahead and have a seat. Thank y'all so much for being able to participate in those little superstitions that I have. That helps an awful lot. You know, the older I get, the more stuck in my ways I am. I'm old, y'all. I gotta stretch my hamstrings before I come up here. My calves don't adjust the same way. All right, so my name is Chris Collins. I'm the CEO of Chris C. Speaks. I've had the privilege to speak to the most amazing, talented people all across the world, and now I can include that honor of being able to speak to you all. For the past 15 years, I've been pouring out to make sure that folks in these seats get all the information they need to be the dopest version of themselves. Now I know sometimes I have to translate or code switch when I use certain vernacular and colloquialisms in different rooms. So when I say the dopest version of yourself, that's not a bad thing. The dopest version of yourself means that you are being your most authentic self, tapped into your most present gift in the moment, and you are doing your best to add to your community, your campus, and your future. That's my goal today. But what is amazing to me is that a kid from the south side of the Chi is right here on this stage. Yo, I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, and the fact that I'm here and that I do this for a living is absolutely bonkers. Was raised in a single parent household, but that's not really why the fact that I'm here is bonkers. That's okay. My mom was always supportive. My grandparents were there. But the fact that I'm here is bonkers because I was a knucklehead. Y'all, if there was trouble to be found, you want to know who found it? This guy. My teachers would see me come in and be like, oh my God, don't you ever get sick? And I'd be like, nope, my mom's out coming even with the fever. The people at the corner store would see me walk in the store and be like, oh my God, when are you going to break now? And I'd be like, I don't know, we're going to find out. Y'all, I was a knucklehead. So the fact that a knucklehead from the south side of the Chi has traveled all across North America, South America, and the globe It's absolutely amazing. But what else is also amazing is that you are here. So real quick, give yourselves a round of applause. That's okay to clap for you. I want y'all to clap for yourself. Give yourselves a round of applause. All right, so here's how this works. I'm going to give you information, you're going to take it, and then that's it. I'm out, don't ask me no questions. I got a plan, no, I'm joking. This should be a conversation. Hopefully we have a dialogue here, right? So if I ask you a question, feel free to respond, because if you don't respond, I just look awkward, and I'm just waiting on it, and I'll wait. I have the patience of the saint. I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you. So real quick, I told y'all my mom was super supportive. Yo, my mom was super supportive. Like, I told my mom I wanted to be a rapper one time, and she was like, you want to be a what? I said, I want to be a rapper, Mom. She said, you better go wrap those dishes in that sink. My mom had a unique ability to take anything that I wanted to do and turn it into a chore that I hadn't done. Anybody else's mom have that ability? I'm like, how do you do that? How do you do that? But now that I'm a parent, I have that skill. All right. So then one day I told my mom I wanted to be an astronaut. I said, Mom, I want to be an astronaut. She said, you want to be? I said, an astronaut. Mom said, you better go astronaut that laundry in your room. And I was like, really, Mom? Chill out with that. I said, Mom, I want to go to space camp. It only cost $799.99. My mom looked at me like I just smacked her in the face. She said, it costs how much? I said, $799.99. How much did it cost to go to space camp, y'all? And I said, well, Mom, if you really don't have it, the commercial said you can break it up into 2 payments. She didn't laugh like y'all did. She actually popped me in the back of the head and said, go astronaut that laundry that's in your room. So my mom came to me the next day, and I was really disappointed. She said, I know you're down. Remember how you told me you wanted to be an astronaut? I got something special for you. I was like, oh, you got something special for me. She said, you know how you said you wanted to go to space camp? I said, oh, I certainly do. She said, come here, let me tell you something. Y'all, I just knew I was about to go to space camp. Like, I was ready to do, like, the G-Force. I was ready to do space ice cream. I was ready to go to Kiss Me. I was ready. My mom came to me and she said, baby, here's what I got for you. I enrolled you in a 10-week-long summer enrichment program where you're going to study math, science, STEM, and astronomy for 10 whole weeks. All through your summer. Every Saturday at 7 a.m. downtown. And I bought you a bus pass because you got to catch 3 buses to get there. I said, excuse me, you said what? I said, Mom, you didn't understand the assignment. That's not space camp. I need $799.99 to go to space camp. Mom said, well, that ain't happening. This is free. And don't you go out there and embarrass me in front of the people. So for 10 weeks, y'all, in my summer, I had to go to a summer enrichment program to learn math, science, and astronomy on Saturdays at 7 a.m. You know how bad that makes your summer suck? Every Friday, I'd go to sleep and I'd just be rocking, just terrified because I had to get up to go to that class. But on the 5th week, everything changed. On the 5th week, we went on a field trip to a place called the Adler Planetarium. We went to the Adler Planetarium. That's one, if you're from Chicago, you know the Adler Planetarium, like that's like the field trip. That's the one everybody wants to go to. And in my neighborhood, they didn't take us on that field trip. They bought the field trip to us. So they would put this little tent in the gym and make it real hot and blow it up with air. And they're like, this is what it looks like. No, I want to see it. So this time I actually got to see it. So y'all, I'm on the bus. I am excited. I'm on this bus. I'm cheesing from ear to ear. I am gritting. I am excited. But on the back of the bus, somebody was like, why are you so excited to go to the planetarium? I said, I've never been there before. I said, I can tell you broke. I can tell you ain't never been nowhere. We knew you didn't belong here. You excited to go to the planetarium? Knocked all the cool out of my step. I was about to cry, like one solitary tear. So I'm from the South Side, we don't cry much. But I was about to cry one tear when we walked up to the planetarium. All my cares went away. I went to the planetarium. It was everything I wanted it to be. Y'all, it was magic. It was special. It was a connection. Who here has ever been to a museum before? Okay? When you get done in the museum, where do you typically go? Where do they typically follow you to? The gift shop. Y'all, my mom gave me $7.36 in quarters to go to the gift shop and said, you better bring me back some change. I was like, Mom, this is the change. She said, you better go change them dishes in the sink. So I'm in the gift shop and making life and death decisions. I'm trying to figure out how am I going to pay for a magnet, a pencil, a t-shirt, and a hoodie. And bring my mama back some change. And when I'm counting these coins on the counter, who sees me except for the hater on the back of the bus? And they say, I can't believe you're using coins and nickels and dimes to pay for something in the gift shop. I said, well, first of all, it's quarters. Second of all, mind your business. This gentleman walks up to me, I need a volunteer. I need a volunteer. Somebody volunteer. Who lifts weights? Come on. Come on. I promise I won't make you lift me. Come on. So this gentleman walks up to me, and he's talking about me. He's got joke after joke after joke. And I'm like, look, just leave me alone. I'm just trying to buy something out of the gift shop. Let me make it. He's like, I'm not going to let you make it, and there's nothing you can do about it. And then he proceeds to do this. He takes his two fingers like this, puts them on my forehead like this, and he pushes me. Come on. Okay, wait, now listen. What's your name? Josh, no, I'm not shaking your hand, Josh. You just pushed me real hard. Josh, you pushed me hard. You pushed me that hard again. In this Capitol building, it's going to be some foolishness. Okay, all right, one more time. Let me make sure. Maybe your hands just slipped, Josh. Okay. So he said, I'm not going to let you make it, and there's nothing you can do about it. And he put his two fingers like this, put them on my forehead, and then he pushed. Come on, Josh, man. I thought we were school. All right, everybody give Josh a round of applause. Now, I'm from the south side of Chicago, so at this moment, I only had two choices. I could either put hands on him, or I could let him make it. Which one of y'all think I did? You think I put hands on him, or you think I let him make it? If you think I let him make it, say let him make it. Josh? Really? After you pushed me twice in my forehead, you gonna call me a troublemaker? Can we do something about Josh's internship? Okay, all right. So if you think I let him make it, say let him make it. If you think I put hands on him, say put hands on him. Okay, yeah, that was like the same. It was like, if you think I let him make it, say let him make it. Yeah, it's a lot of people. If you think I put hands on him, say put hands on him. Y'all are really disrespectful. I've been a nice guy, I've been jovial, I've been smiling. What makes you think I'm violent? Y'all are right though, I'll put hands on him. I'll put hands on him. And listen, I don't say that, I say it with comedic relief now, but it wasn't a very proud moment for me. So I want y'all to take notes on this. I did not put hands on that young man because I was threatened. I put hands on him because I thought he was telling the truth. I thought that I didn't belong on that college campus with astronauts, physicists, professors. What a 13-year-old boy from the south side of the shot belonged on the University of Chicago's campus. Nobody in my family been there before. I thought I didn't have what it takes to finish the program, so I might as well speed up the process. For the rest of your life, you are going to have to decide what narrative are you going to listen to. Every time you walk into your job, you have to decide what narrative am I going to listen to. Every time whoever your employer is says something to you that you maybe don't agree with, you're going to have to decide what narrative am I going to listen to. You're going to have to ask yourself, do I really believe I am who I say I am? Now, my mom had to come pick me up from that planetarium, and I was terrified. I just knew my mom was going to give me the worst whipping of my entire life. But she pulled me aside, and she called me by my nickname. Now, I'm going to tell y'all my nickname. Don't y'all laugh at my nickname. You already smiled. All right, my nickname is Scooter. She said, Scooter? I said, it's always one. She said, Scooter, you have to decide who controls the narrative. She said, baby, your perception is your reality. What you see what you believe shapes your reality. Do you believe that this opportunity, that this internship has the ability to put you in a place where you weren't before? Do you believe that you have the skill set that is needed to be able to win, and not just win, but win at a high level? You have to believe it before it happens. There's something called the RAS factor. Anytime, you all ever seen, you all ever saw like a new car, and then all of a sudden you start to see that car everywhere you go? It's the RAS filter. It's not that the car is there anymore, it's just that when you are exposed to it, now you recognize it more. I need everyone in this room to see, we all know that you got to change how you see the world so you can change the world you see, right? We've all seen that. But in order to do that, you have to change what you see. You have to change what you see because exposure changes expectations. See, if you don't believe that you can sit at the table, how can you expect to build your own? If you don't believe you belong in the room, how can you ever build the house? I was talking to some young folks today. They were talking about some very specific challenges, and I hope that the exposure they got changed their expectation. Yes, it's challenging in your field. It's hard. What y'all are going into is hard. Do you hear me? Like, it's going to punch you in the face every single time. I don't care. Expose yourself to it so that when you get there, you can change the expectations. See, everyone in this room has the ability and the responsibility to change the expectations, not just for yourself, but for your family, for your community, and for your future. Everyone say exposure, changes, expectations. All right, you would think that after that long incident, I'd be done getting it up here, right? Josh. So listen, I decided to let Josh make it. In a second, we won't have to put hands on him. No, I'm joking. So I'm going to show y'all this little quick picture. This is my younger brother. He's my younger brother, not my little brother, because he's taller than me. He's like 6'4". He's so handsome, isn't he? Everybody say hi, Chase. Hi, Chase. Whatever, he needs a job. All right, so I got two more stories that I'm going to get out of you here. So listen, when I was 16, I had a six-pack. I know it's hard to tell. I was in shape. Now I'm just round. I had a six-pack. I thought I was on top of the world. I was the captain of the football team. I was on varsity. You know what I'm saying? I had a little swag. The sneaker game was good. Basketball sneakers really mattered. And I decided to teach my younger brother how to drive. Now, my younger brother is 7 years younger than me. So how old does that make my younger brother for this driving lesson? 9. Yo, the boy wasn't old enough to drink chocolate milk, let alone drive. And I didn't have my own car. I had my mom's car. And that was the only car that we had. And y'all already shaking your head. Let me make it. I took my brother to a candlelight breakfast at the Waffle House. Best breakfast in the state of Texas, I don't care what you say. And everything was going perfect. I want y'all to follow me for a minute, okay? When I say start the car, I want y'all to just bounce your shoulders a little bit, okay? All right? So we started the lesson, and I told them to start the car. Everybody bounce your shoulders. Just bounce a little bit, yeah. You don't have to have no rhythm, just bounce. Don't break up the sweat. Don't break the sweat. It's okay. Just a little bounce. Just move your shoulders. So I taught them how to go forward. Everybody go forward. Come on, everybody go forward. Lean forward. Then I taught them how to go backwards. Everybody lean back. Taught them how to go forward again. Then I taught them how to go back. Then I taught them how to stop. Okay? I'm the best driver instructor in the world at this point. So now, I said start the car again. We start the car. Bounce your shoulders a little bit. Taught them how to go forward. Everybody, come on. Taught them how to go back. Then I said, let me show you how to turn. Show them how to do a left turn. Everybody go to the left. Hey. Everybody go to the right. Hey. Everybody go to the left. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right. I was the driving instructor in the world for about 11 minutes. And then I said, on this next turn, Chase, give it a little gas. Let's start the car. We're going forward. Come on. We're going backwards. We go right. We go left. Then I say, give it a little gas. On this next turn, y'all, the car does like this. He slams on the gas instead of the brake because he got nervous. We hopped the curb. What I didn't tell you is that we're in the back of my high school. We go through the brick wall. The car crashes. The whole front scrunches up like a slinky. We got smoke and flames coming from everywhere. The car is leaking whatever it is. It looked like car blood. The airbag pops out, hits him in the face. He's bleeding, he's crying. I don't know how, but the police are already on their way. I'm like, how y'all get here so fast? This just happened. The law officer comes over and says, who was driving in the car? I said, it was me, sir. He looks at me and he says, it was you? I said, yes, sir, it was me. I did it. He said, son, how tall are you? I said, I'm 6'2". I'm proud now, right? Puffing out my chest. 6'2", 225, and I bench 400. He's like, oh, okay, good. Have a seat in this chair. See, my little brother, in order for him to drive, had to move the seat all the way up. It's like I was trying to get in the clown car. Take notes about this. Oftentimes, we accelerate our lives way too fast. We overvalue speed when we should put more value on efficiency. I know you're like, why do I need an internship? I already have the ideas. Just give me the experience. How you gonna make me go to 4 years of school and then I still gotta go get an internship? What are you? Do you know I got bills to pay? When you accelerate too fast, you lose control because you're not ready for that. And I'm not saying what you are not ready for, but I'm asking you to do an inventory about where you are and make sure that you focus on efficiency instead of speed. Because if you get there too soon, you get to your destination and what you're waiting for isn't there yet. Or you don't get there at all because you go the wrong direction. One thing that Thomas Miranda said that I thought was absolutely amazing is he said, I went all over the country looking at different things, and I just found my way where I am now. I set high expectations, and then I found myself where I am now. He said he had ambition, but he didn't really have the direction. You gotta have a little direction for him to get where he is. I think he was being a little modest, but the ambition piece can't be overstated. Focus on the efficiency instead of the speed. I want to tell you something else. Now, my mom had a choice after this car wreck. She could have either put hands on me or she could have let me make it. If you think my mom put hands on me after crashing her car, say put hands. Put hands. If you think she let me make it, say let me make it. Let me make it. It's the same number again. Let's try it again. If you think she put hands on me, say put hands. Put hands. Y'all don't know my mama like that. If you think she let me make it, say let me make it. Let me make it. She let me make it, y'all. I'm still waiting on that whipping to this day. She let me make it, and she said this. She asked, why did you think it was okay to teach your younger brother how to drive? And I told her that I wanted him to experience the same experience I had with my grandfather in the alley in Chicago, Illinois. I wanted to be the man of the house. I wanted to be the best big brother I could be. And she said, but you just got your driver's license. How are you going to teach somebody what you don't know? And then she said this. She said, good intentions don't always lead to good results. There are going to be some times when y'all are going to try your damnedest. You're going to put forth all your energy in the world. You're going to put in all the applications. You're You're gonna write 1,001 cover letters. I'm talking about you're gonna give it your all, and it ain't gonna work. You are going to experience some failure in your life. Everyone close your eyes, and I want you to accept this very, very true truth. You ain't gonna win every time. Sometimes you're gonna fall flat on your face. But failure is the prerequisite to greatness. It's not about if you fail, it's about how fast you fail. Go ahead and open your eyes back up. Now, I know earlier I just said don't focus on speed, but when we talk about failure, we do have to focus on that. It's not about if you fail, it's when you fail fast. The reason why folks like Bezos, Musk, the reason why they are where they are is because they don't worry about failure. That's just an opportunity that ain't there for them. You put in an application, cool. All right, you don't want me, somebody will. You get that job, all right, cool, keep putting in the application, because now it's a competition. Now you see which one fits best. Good intentions will always lead to good results. However, you got to do good anyway. Everybody say do good anyway. Do good anyway. What do you want to be when you grow up? Somebody. Somebody needs, what do you want to be? Talk to me.
Chief Financial Officer.
Chief Financial Officer. CFO. Come on, what's your name? Amado. Bobcat, by the way. Step your game on Texas State. All right. This Josh Harrison is about to escort out. Josh, what do you want to be when you grow up? Somewhere where you can help people. I love it.
I don't really care about that.
As long as you can help. I like that. Okay, Josh. He can say. He can say. Somebody. Okay. He don't get us. He don't get us. Somebody else. Talk to me. Yes.
I want to be a city manager or planner with a law background.
A city manager or a planner with a law background. Okay, PVU. What's your name?
Alana Henry, and I'm really interested in doing it. I just feel like if I'm going to have the weight of the world on my shoulders, I want it to be world I build. So.
Everybody snap for that. If I'm going to have the weight of the world on my shoulders, it might as well be the world that I build.
Yes,
Girl, if you don't put that on a t-shirt so I can buy it, come on, Alana, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Goodness. Listen, I'm about to sit down and let you get up here. That was good. Someone else, come on, talk to me. What you want to be when you grow up? Somebody was pointing to you now. It's Jessica, right? No, Jennifer?
Yeah.
Jennifer, right? Okay, Jennifer, talk to me. What you want to be?
I want to have my own business.
You want to own your own business? I'm old. Come on, 17.
I want my own business and help people as well.
Okay, you want to own your own business and you want to help people as well. Amazing, amazing. I'm about to give you all some advice that will change your life. If you write this down, you'll feel good for a few minutes. If you live it, you'll live like nobody else. I'm going to give you 3 questions that will allow you to always do good anyway. And I'm going to give you 3 questions that will change your perspective on the way you function in your current role. But it's important for us to remember that when we do things, we have to do it from our heart or not at all. So the key about everything that you said, you want to own your own business and help people. You want to be a CFO. At the end of the day, you want to help people. You want to live in the world that you built. Because if it's going to be on your shoulders, it might as well be the one you created. It has to come from here. Passion is overrated, but it's not irrelevant. Discipline is required to make your passion a reality. Well, I'm giving y'all a lot of tweets. Y'all better be tweeting these. All right. I want y'all to do the work. Everybody say do the work. Do the work. Here are the 3 questions. Here's the first question I want you to ask yourself. Is your network, does that equal your net worth? Yes or no? Yes. Does it? Yes. Talk to me. Somebody tell me why. Okay. All right.
But then you can also see it as, while your network is important to certain aspects of your network, you also have more to offer. Sometimes it's not always
listen, I think your network equals your network is alive. You can know everybody in the world. You can have all the connections in the world. But if you don't value relationships, and if you don't actually do the work, it doesn't matter. We have to strive for purpose over popularity. Because if you are networked and connected and it's just social, it doesn't matter, it don't translate. You gotta make sure that you're operating in a purpose. You have to operate in your values, not about the money. Anyone here ever play dominoes? My granddaddy taught me how to play dominoes, and he would say, son, all money ain't good money. Write these down. What need am I uniquely equipped to meet in the spaces that I occupy? Right now, you should be answering this question. As an intern, what need am I uniquely equipped to meet in the spaces that I occupy? This allows you to have a focus and to find your purpose. Next question. How can I use my position, privilege, and power to positively impact my community? So often we say we just want to help folks. How? What exactly can you do to be able to move the needle on a real scale that allows people to feel the impact in their community? Next question. How does my current space prepare me for my future space? If the internship is just about building your resume, I was the HR manager for air products and chemicals, and I covered the entire Western region. I sat a young person down in my office. I was about to offer them an $120,000 salary with a $10,000 signing bonus, a corporate car, and access to a private jet. Their resume was super impressive. I mean, their resume was impressive. They were president of this, secretary of this, co-chair, chair of this. And I asked them one question. I said, what impact did you make in these spaces? The amount of stuttering that happened at my desk was alarming. You have to be able to quantify why you're going through what you're going through now so that in the future you can explain it and articulate it so I can be even better. You want to operate in big spaces on big tables? Fine. Make sure that you know how to assemble it and you know all the nuts and bolts so when you sit down, you can intelligently speak about how you are uniquely qualified to be there. You got to do the work. You got to do the work yourself. This is my daughter. My daughter hates that I use this picture. Like, she does. Like every time she sees like a picture of someone doing this, she's like, Dad, stop using that. But this is a precious time for us. We sit there with our little mask on, we do manis and petties, we do little mimosas. I mean, like, and then if I'm really feeling sassy, we go shopping afterwards, and she's like, okay, then let's go. In the grind that we live in now, we have to be cognizant of the work of self-care. We have to be cognizant of our ability to say, you know what? This is not my cross to bear. This is not my burden. Sometimes we take on way too much. It's okay to identify with superhuman, but we have to know that we're not superhuman. We have a finite amount of energy to tackle an infinite amount of distractions, so you better be darn sure that you're focusing in the right place. We got to do the work for the joy. Y'all see my man here think he about to 2-0 out? He think he about to 2-0 out, don't he? He don't know what's on the other side. He don't know he about to be draw forward, +2 all the way out. Little man about to be crying. He is about to be in tears. As a matter of fact, when it's all said and done, he's going to flip over the table and run out. Happiness is temporary. Joy is an inside job. You got to work to get joy. You got to figure out why are you really how can I make that an internal thing? How can I remove that ability from anybody else and place it squarely on my shoulders? That's how we get that joy. You want to be a CFO, you better find some joy. Because I'm telling you, when you get in that seat, if it's just the money that motivates you to get there, when you get there, you ain't gonna get it long. It ain't enough money in the world that can make me be a CFO. That's not bad at math. I can't multiply that. I hope you love it. And I hope that you absolutely want to be there for the right reasons. I hope you always focus on the patients and keep them in mind so that we understand that healthcare is a right and not a privilege. I hope you do things in those spaces to be able to shift that, because joy is the work that we have to do. We got to do the work for the culture. This is actually right here in Austin. Y'all see this? Take a moment to go stop by and see this in Austin. Without getting political, without talking about social economic differences, without doing any of that. Do the work for the culture. You are in a position of power, everyone in this room, which means you're in a position of privilege. Because power equals privilege, and privilege equals responsibility. All I'm asking you to do is just do something for those that don't have the same voice you got. I'm not saying that you didn't have it hard. I ain't saying that you didn't work for it. I didn't say that you didn't deserve it, because privilege is also a good thing. I understand that I implore a unique male privilege. I get it. I understand that I implore a cisgender privilege. I get it. But what do I do with it is my work for the culture. It's my work for the culture. Next, you got to do the work for who got next. Who in here has a sibling? Raise your hand. Oh, almost everybody? Okay, wait. Who has more than one sibling? More than two? More than three? More than four? More than five?
What do you mean more than 5? Okay,
More than five? Okay, more than six? More than seven? 7? You got 7 siblings? How many do you have? 6? You have 7 siblings? You had to fight for every bowl of cereal in your entire life. With 7 siblings. Like, she got cereal, was like, it's mine now. Right? And it's, listen, taking the remote control, which is in the bathroom, absolutely, you gotta do it. 7 siblings. I'll tell you. Who's next in your legacy? Who will be able to paint a picture of their life and have your face as a part of it? We got to start thinking about these things. Who's next? Because you don't want to be doing it forever. I think the biggest hustle in the world is to tell you got to work a 9 to 5 for 50 years and then tell you that's when you retire. What? Busy with that. I'm trying to be able to retire while I still got a little bounce in the step. But I can't retire until I figure out who's next to take my place. Somebody has to continue to do the work. So you got to do the work to make sure you prepare who's next. We got to do work for the community. Everybody said the community. The community. This is one of my favorite things in the world. So this is in the back is my son, okay. That's my oldest son, Chandler. That's my youngest son, Carson. That's not my son, that's Roberto from HEB. And in the back is what you see are turkeys. Okay, what you see here is us passing out turkeys. So every year for the past 6 or 7 years, we've done a turkey drive. It started out with like 20 turkeys. Last year we did 896 meals for Thanksgiving. We started out with 20 turkeys. We did almost 900 meals. I'm talking about turkey, dressing, yams, greens, all the fixings, diapers, formula, clothes, soap, detergent for almost 900 families. The news called and said, hey, Chris, we want to cover it. I said, no thanks. It ain't about that. It's about the community. What impact are you making in your community? And when I say community, I mean like the place where you're from, the place that you occupy. I used to think I was big time when I used to write a check to this national organization. I used to write a $5,000 check to this national organization and walk around like, I wrote a $5,000 check to a national organization. You want to know what I got for that? A thank you letter. That same $5,000 stretched through HEB partnership allows me to impact over 900 families, and there's nothing that makes me feel better than seeing those folks come up there and they're hugging and crying, and because they're just thankful that they not only have this meal, but it's meal for the rest of the week. When you give back, it's good for your soul. Last but not least, you got to do the work for your family. Now, I'm married up, y'all. My oldest son, my daughter, my youngest son, is my wife. She finally frog hair. I'm married up. I travel all across the country, and sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard when you spend 17 days away from your family. It used to be exciting, like, oh man, I'm out traveling, eating all the fancy places. Now I just want to be in my bed. My pillow is curved just right from the back of my head. You got to do the work for those in your family so you can expose them, so you can change their expectations. And last but not least, you got to do the work for you. Everybody stand up real quick. We out here. Earlier, I made you all make a promise. I made you promise on everything that you love that you would be the dopest version of yourselves. So now I'm going to ask you to do, y'all got paper? Everyone got paper? Yes? Everyone get a piece of paper real quick. Get a piece of paper. I got a pen? No, you don't have a phone, don't worry about it. You have paper, don't worry about it. Who doesn't have paper? I assume I can take these, right? Who doesn't have paper? Okay. Real quick. Who doesn't have paper? Right here. Who else? You ain't got paper?
I have paper, I just wasn't sure if you needed a pen.
Oh, no. You need a pen too. You need a pen? Somebody got a pen. Paper pen in your bag. Paper pen in your bag. Okay, I got you. Listen, now make sure, listen. That's what I'm saying. You make sure you get that back now. People, I didn't see people fight over pens. Okay, all right, real quick. I want you to draw, real quick, y'all. I'm running out of time. I want you to draw a tree on the paper. Draw a tree on the paper. Okay? Draw a tree. I don't care how big it is, how small it is. It's your tree. It's your paper. Then I want you to write your name on the paper. Okay? Draw a tree, then write your name. Now I want you to put this paper on top of your head. And make sure the side that you drew the tree on is up. Right? So the side that you drew the tree on should be like up where you can say, okay, all right, got it. Now I want you to draw a tree again with the paper on top of your head. Draw a tree with the paper on top of your head. No, it's fine. Put the paper on your head and draw a tree like that. Okay? All right, now I want you to draw a dog on top of your head. Y'all got it? A dog. Draw a dog. I know what a dog looks like. I don't need you to be Picasso. Draw a dog. Paper on your head, draw a dog. Now I want you to draw the sun. Last but not least, I want you to draw a car. Well, y'all mad at me. Someone was like, oh, come on. Okay, all right, now, look at the paper. Okay. All right, now listen. Now, what do you switch with the person next to you? Switch with the person next to you. Real quick, switch. Okay. All right. They'll keep me out for a little. All right, y'all can hear me. We're going to grade these papers very quickly. If you can see and identify what you believe is the tree that they drew when they were looking at it, circle it. If you can identify the tree that they drew when they were actually looking at the paper, circle that. If you can identify the tree that they drew on top of their head, circle it. If you can identify the dog, circle it. your partner's paper that they drew when they were looking at it? Raise your hand. Right, okay. Raise your hand if you were able to identify the tree that they drew on top of their head. Y'all being mad generous. Raise your hand if you can identify the sun. Okay. Raise your hand if you can identify the dog. I don't believe it. Let me see what's no, look, look at this. It's a what? This ain't no dog. Okay, wait, no, listen. Okay, all right. Okay. Raise your hand if you can identify the sun. I see the sun. Okay. So, first of all you all are very nice. But do you know why you can identify these things?
Perception.
I'm going to leave y'all with this. When you know what you're looking for, it's easy to find. If I just randomly gave you these papers, you would be like, Chris, what is this? And what 4-year-old drew? We got professional seasoned people in here. But you were able to identify it because you knew what you were looking for. And if you look at those papers, some of those things weren't really close, but you gave it to them anyway because of something called grace. And the reason why you gave them that grace is because you started the whole paper first. When we realize that we ain't got it all together, it's a lot easier for us to give grace to those who we see that aren't in the same position as us. When you leave here today, don't just take these notes and put them somewhere. I want you to live what you learn. It's a process. But if you live the process, the rest takes care of itself. All right, I love you like a fat kid love cake. Thank you for your time.
Chris C. speaks. Chris C. speaks. Chris, thank you so much for the presentation. Just a phenomenal day that we've had today, and let's take what we've learned and apply it to our daily works. And so Chris C. speaks. A round of applause for the Chris C. speaks. So we're winding up the program right at 3:15, 3:20 right now, and we're going to end this day, but we are delighted. You heard from Commissioner Alvarez this morning. I told you there are 3 commissioners at the Workforce Commission. Commissioner Alvarez, who represents labor, and then I get to represent the employers. And then we're delighted to have with us our chair, who represents the public here, our chair of the Workforce Commission. And so Chairman Brian Daniels is going to come to close us out. And so let me, again, kind of read a little bit. We talked about today the importance of the networking, the importance of knowing what folks do so that you can actually connect back to them. And so our Chairman Daniel is the chairman and commissioner representing the public for the Texas Workforce Commission. And again, Governor Greg Abbott appointed him to the 3-member commission on July 29, 2019. Serves as a representative for the public, promoting and supporting the growth of Texas' world-class employers and talented workforce. Prior to this appointment, and this is the important part again, so that you can reflect back on what folks have done. Prior to this appointment, Chairman Daniel served as the Executive Director of the Office of Governor, Economic Development and Tourism Division, film and music, a number of different initiatives under that office. But again, the Office of the Governor, Economic Development. He previously served as Vice President for Business Development at Agricultural Workers Mutual Auto Insurance Company, and as the Texas State Director of Rural Development in President George W. Bush's administration. Again, another connector there, President George W. Bush's administration, the agriculture background as well. And so as you hear these things, if you have an interest in any of those fields or so, this is another opportunity for you to connect with his office and to connect with him in regards to what he's done in his experience as well. And then lastly, he's a graduate of Texas Tech University, which is a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture Communications and a Master of Science in Agricultural Education. Again, if there are any Red Raiders out there, you connect from that standpoint again. And so the bio information is actually in the program here. I want you guys to make sure that you're taking advantage of all of those things that we talked about today. Read this bio. If there are any connectors there, we want you to take advantage of making those relationships as well. And so without further ado, I bring to you our chairman, Ryan Daniel.
All right, 3 takeaways, quick. 1, never speak after Chris C. 2, get in Chris C's text group for Thanksgiving. All right? 3, I'm gonna hang out with Chris C. Watch this. It's gonna happen. What a great conference, man! They put together some good stuff for you. I wish they did this, all the time. I think we're gonna. I think that's the plan. We got to get folks together. Here's some things I've just learned in life. First thing, it's not what you know. You know a lot of stuff. It's who you know. And you got to know all the people. Everybody. Folks different from you, folks the same as you, folks that don't talk like you. You've got to get to know. That's the power of what makes this state great. It's the fact that we all came from somewhere, and now we're going somewhere together. Second thing, the world is run by the people who take the time to show up, like this conference today. Show up. You're ahead of 99% of the other people. There's a lot going on in the world today. There's a lot of things we got to deal with. So a lot of things we got to think about. I think you just saw a great presentation that kind of puts it all in perspective for you. Gives you a chance to think about how you're going to take things you know and the people you know and put those to work in a way that you can make some things happen. I don't have much more to add. I mean, they've covered it all. It's been a long day. I appreciate you guys sticking around. These things are not easy to put on, and they're not easy to attend either. But you definitely got your money's worth today. This is some incredible stuff. And so with that, I'll close out my portion with just simply saying this. Chris, I promise, every day, no matter what else, I am indeed the dopest version of myself.
Now, how can I follow that and Chrissy? This is amazing. Thank you, Chair Daniel, for your wonderful insight of our the Texas Interns Unite Conference in collaboration with Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. And this was an amazing event. Again, we thank you for participating and joining us. Please log on to your social media, post any pictures, connect with each other, network, and we look forward to seeing you next year. So I want to bring up Commissioner. Oh no, are you coming back?
Because we're going to bring up Vanessa to close this out.
Oh, that's right. I am so sorry. See, it's been. How can I follow that? But yes, we are. You're going to hear from Vanessa again, Malone, with the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, and she's going to close this out. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. We just, on behalf of everyone who's been involved with this opportunity today, want to thank you for taking the time to come, to be present, to be engaged, and to be a part of the conversation. That's where it starts. In the words of Chris C., it's about community, and this is not something that we can do alone. What I'm talking about is moving the needle, getting everyone to college completion, funding, opportunities, having those opportunities where you can work, live, and learn, and continuing to be a part of that ripple effect. You're paying it forward. When you do good in your life, then you're able to move someone else forward as a result. So I think there were a couple of things that Chris said that were really meaningful. I just want to reiterate it so that we don't forget. Thinking about what your narrative is. The exposures that change your expectations every time that you go into these opportunities, whether it's job shadowing, whether it's interning or an apprenticeship, you're getting exposed to something new, you're able to kind of discover. So I encourage you to just sit in that for a little bit, reflect, figure out if that's what you want to do and how you want to contribute. What do you want to bring to the table? And remember that you're powerful, and remember to advocate for yourself, and specifically talking to students here or graduate students. Advocate for yourself, speak up, don't be afraid, because your voice is powerful. And I want you to know that we're listening. We're all listening. We're here for you. We're here to support you. but it's a community effort. So we thank you for your time today. I think on Christy's shirt he had in one of the pictures with his brother, it says, leadership is a verb. So for employers out there and for the state, let's act, let's come to the table, let's continue to converse and talk about what we can do for our students in Texas, and continue to prosper together. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to more opportunities like this.
So we are adjourned. I mean, there are sandwiches out there on your way out. Thank you guys so much for everything you're doing. Go to Texas Interns Unite, put it out on social media, and just enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you so much.